pairings where there is perhaps a quicker driver. A few have gone for the quicker driver to start, I see, and some have not. So there's plenty of strategy to play here. And with that one addition of Ricky Collard on the grid, the one professional rank driver being a silver FIA driver. So that means that car will have a 30-second pit stop penalty, drive-through penalty, if you like. And that will probably come immediately, I would imagine. That's what they did last year, but that is the only car with that added complexion to the strategy. But yeah, very interesting. Of course, some of the strategy relies on how big your fuel tank is and how long of a range you've got, whereas others, they can be a bit more flexible. But yeah, it's going to be very intriguing, this 2.5 hours, in what is a very competitive field. And quite a good mix, actually, of the three classes. It's not a massively dominant class of cars here, is there? They're pretty evenly matched amongst the three classes. And differently to road sports yesterday, because we called it the split grids in road sports, that traffic's going to be a lot more of a factor than what we saw in yesterday's races. So yeah, lots to play out. Lots of unpredictability, I think, over the next 2.5 hours, because of course car reliability will be a great factor too. And of course the cars lining up in two ranks here, because it will be a rolling start for the 150-minute race that we have. Josh, just remind us what the rules are around the pit stops in terms of how long those have to be in the Club Enduro Championship. Cars will have to be stationary for 3 minutes for those two mandatory pit stops, and they can't come in the first 30 minutes of the race or the final 15 minutes. So the first 30 minutes will be sort of a pure race, and then the strategy will start to play after that. They can't make that pit stop when the safety car is out. However, if you're already in the pits beforehand, you can continue your pit stop. I have seen the bulletin suggest today that the red lights will be on at the end of the pit lane until the following lap is done, sort of to even out, I think, the advantage you might gain. So there shouldn't really be an advantage, I don't think, if the safety car comes out, and of course you can't make that pit stop. Yeah. Of course, what you can gain is if you've made a pit stop and you're on the back of the lead lap, you'll be bunched right back up again, won't you? We've seen that in the past, where perhaps an earlier pit stop can be advantageous. But of course it's a bit different at this race because of the two pit stop strategy needed. And a 3-minute pit stop plus the pit in and pit out, that's the equivalent of just over 2 laps, isn't it, for the fastest cars? Yeah, we've seen about 22 to 25 seconds, haven't we, for pit in to pit out. So yeah, that's just over 2 laps, isn't it? So that's what you're going to lose with a pit stop. So plenty of intrigue. New cars on the grid, returning cars, different drivers. A few changes. You've got the two champions from classes B and C last year have both moved up to Class A, so that adds a sort of a new complexion, doesn't it? And what is probably a slightly mix-up grid, because if you got traffic on your last lap of the session, you're probably further down the grid than you might have been. And of course, with that, few drivers who weren't the driver except the time started the car. So the first few laps, I think the order might jumble up a little bit. Pretty sure that you're right there, Josh. It will do that. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch as the cars now head off on their rolling lap, the green flag lap, for this Tiguan Club Enduro Championship race. There are a few gaps on the grid, unfortunately we'll try and pick those up as we go down the order, but still a very good healthy number of cars here at Croft for this opening race of the season, and rich variety of machinery as well across the 3 different classes that we have in the Tiguan Club Enduro Championship. We'll see if we can bring you the grid for this race then, as the cars work their way around the rolling lap. I can tell you certainly that it's the Alan Henderson car on pole position, the Mazda MX-5 Mark 1 of car number 45. He is going to be beside the number 13 car of Scott Parkin on the front row of the grid. The second row, that's going to be Christopher Nyland in car 83, besides the Eastern starting the Cupra. The third row, that's going to be the number 19 car of Wayne Lawson. Besides him is Dylan Brickton, number 6 in the Darkside Audi. Row 4, that's going to be Oliver Harris, number 1 on the fourth row of the grid. Besides him is 55 Paul Simpson in the Porsche, BMW and Porsche on the 4th row. The 5th row should be the 117 car, that's Martin Gadsby in the car that has actually withdrawn from the grid. We're just going to take a very brief break while we sort a technical issue. continuing on the rolling lap, had gone as far as the 5th row of the grid. Row 5 should have been Ian Jones, Martin Gadsby, and the compact 117, but they're not there. On the outside of row 5, it's number 10, Ricky Collard starting that car. The 6th row, 44, Alok Iyengar, and 88, Joe Williams. The 7th row, 46, Alistair Lindsay, and 47, Robert Greenwood. The 8th row is 5, Jonathan Packer, and 97, Alex Wilkinson Hughes. The 9th row is 297, Jan Whittaker, and 66, Johnny Hayes. On the 10th row, it's 14, Stuart Mead, and 69, Lucas Fothergill. The 11th row, 171, Stella Osman, and 41, Ethan Simmons. On the 12th row, it's 73, Stephen Moore, and it's the Mick Wright car, number 36. The 13th row is 37, Scott Ferguson, 169, Matthew Simonite. The 14th row is Ewan Lintz on his own, and on the 15th and final row, it's the car as the race gets underway. We'll bring you the details of the rest of that in a moment. It's a good start from Alan Henderson, though. I think he's got the lead as they go down into the first corner. Yes, he just about has got the lead from Scott Parkin, I think that is, in second place as they head into Clairvaux for the first time. It looks like everyone has made it through. The car at the back of the grid is the Edward Christie BMW in the Class C car, but they're all safely through Clairvaux and Hawthorne for the first time, and Josh Barrett, they're heading to Tower with the Mazda MX-5 in the lead.
That's it, this sort of IMSA-inspired Daniel Irving builds Mazda MX-5 driven by Alan Henderson leads the way then ahead of the much more modern machinery. But it is that car that leads up towards the S's with Scott Parkin, the 3-time Class A champion, chasing, and Chris Nyland is new to them. ROS3 Audi is there in 3rd position. In 4th is Simon Mason. In 5th is Ryan Parkin in the prepared car. 6th is Paul Simerson. Ricky Collard's up to 7th. We will see if he pits at the end of this lap to take that penalty for being a pro driver in the championship. And plenty of battles further back in the car that started on pole in Class B. Has gone off the road a little bit there. That was Alistair Lindsay, but he's back on again into the hairpin, just where the Mazda should be pretty good. Much lighter car than those around him. Alan Henderson then leads the way from Scott Parkin, but this very competitive grid up front, I suspect, is going to be very entertaining over the next 2.5 hours.
Certainly is, and they're all coming through. No pit stop for anybody yet as their cars go over the line to complete lap number 1. Then it's Alan Henderson leading the way then by 0.6 of a second from Scott Parkin in 2nd place. In 3rd place is the number 83 car, that's Christopher Nyland in the Audi, and then it's Simon Mason in 4th place in the number 23 Cupra. That's the way of it then. Alan Henderson, though, looks like he's starting to build a few car lengths lead over Scott Parkin in 2nd place.
There's also a Mazda leading in Class B. Alex Wilkinson Hughes has got himself to the front in Class B. Jonathan Hayes continues to lead from pole within Class C. You see down the straight, the Mazda starts to get reeled in again, so it's going to be quicker through the tighter bends. The much lighter MX-5 power to weight ratio is all evens out over the course of a lap. So through the S's he comes. Chris Nyland's going really well in this RS3, isn't he? The driver that won the Class B championship last year in a Honda Civic, then upgraded to this TCR spec Audi, and Simon Mason in the TCR Cupra is going after him. Ryan Parkin looking good in the Audi. They had a quite big accident yesterday. The Darkside development team worked all night, I think, to get that car back and fixed. There's quite a lot of parts to change on it. It's running well there in 5th position. Down into the complex they come, and the leading group all as one really. Paul Simerson in 6th position is keeping Ricky Collard at bay at this stage. It gets very, very tight between the top 2 though, coming out to the final corner.
Yeah, up to complete the 2nd lap of the race then. And the field of the Class B and C still streaming their way through Sunny as they're going on their lap. We are going to have traffic before very many laps, I think, in this race. Such is the sort of a range of cars that we have.
Ricky Collard lost a place down here into Clairvaux. Did the car slow out in the final corner a little bit?
That's Alok Iyengar that's gone through, the ex-F1000 racer. He's gone through, head of Collard in the number 10 car, the BMW Golf TCR. Great to have Ricky out with us this weekend.
The leading Class B is just 0.15 of a second between Alex Wilkinson Hughes and yesterday's Road Sports winner Jonathan Packer. So a very good battle in Class B, heading down the back straight now, led by the Mazda MX-5 of Alex Wilkinson Hughes. And battles in Class C as well, heading up towards Clairvaux, including the BMW Z4 of Scott Ferguson. He takes 5th position away from Matthew Simoneau, who's one of many drivers who are doing this solo 2.5 hours by themselves. So it's going to be hard work.
It certainly is. Meanwhile, the leaders then in the Class B heading through the Jim Clark S's. That's Wilkinson Hughes and Jonathan Packer. Packer in the Golf. Watching the cars come through a little bit further back as well. That is the number 14 Stuart Mead Volkswagen trucker that he's sharing with Tim Hartland this weekend. That's a little bit further down the order as well. Cars coming through to complete the third lap of the race. It's Alan Henderson leading by 1.2 seconds. Ricky Carlos has not lost any more places. He is still there in 8th position.
Yeah, something doesn't seem quite right. Whether it is Ricky at the wheel or that's changed last minute. So we'll see what happens over the coming laps. Perhaps a bit of smoke, but TCR cars tend to do that a little bit as they change gears, so that might not be necessarily a problem. But this new car to the team this weekend, the Volkswagen Golf, he's being chased by Wayne Lawson. Wayne's got a new teammate for this weekend. James Pickford's operating GT cars, so he has got a super sub in Paul O'Neill, who I don't think's raced a touring car for quite some time now. We've talked about them quite a lot on the telly, but back at the wheel of a TCR car. In fact, for the first time in racing conditions, and we'll see him out later on. He was quickest in qualifying at one point this morning. Just behind them is the Class C champion from last year, Oliver Harris, who's got a new BMW, an M2 CS racing car, a factory-built BMW that you might have seen race at the Nürburgring. They've got a class there, and he will be joined by the runner-up from the Ginetta GT Championship from last year. Back again is Jack Collins, who will be pretty rapid in that car later in the race, I suspect.
Yeah, there is Ricky Card there in the number 10 Golf that he shares with Rob Fennick. And just behind them is the Wayne Lawson, Paul O'Neill Audi. Two orange liveried cars going through to complete the fourth lap of the race, which is still being led by Alan Henderson, number 45. He stretches his lead now to 2.1 seconds over Scott Parkin. Parkin has got 3 cars right behind him though. The Chris Nyland Audi, the Simon Mason Cupra, and the Dylan Brichter Audi TT as well, the second of the Darkside cars.
Change for the leading Class B. Jonathan Packer has gone through and ahead of Alex Wilson-Hughes. So the Volkswagen Golf leads Class B at this stage of the race. Meanwhile, in Class C, Jonathan Hay has got a significant advantage over Ethan Simmons, and Ewan Litz, who's moved up the order, he's up to third within Class C in his Honda Civic. Meanwhile, the leading group head their way through the Jim Clark S's, headed by Alan Henderson. He's a couple of seconds clear now of Scott Parkin. Of course, some of what might be going on as well here really is a bit of time observation, because will the teams change tyres in the pit stop or not? And either way, you're going to be going for a long time on the tyres. Ewan Lynn's a bit slow across the line, just setting up to third. He's lost that position in Class C now to Scott Ferguson, who's been making good progress in the BMW Z4. But Ewan Lynn's a little bit slow out of the final corner. Yeah, he's on several positions, hasn't he, in that Honda Civic Type R, the FM2 model that he's sharing with Gavin Johnson and Pip Hammond today. Yeah,
Matthew Simonite right behind him now in the Mazda MX-5 there, Edward Christie in the orange BMW 3 Series that completes the field as we are working the 6th lap of the race.
Change for second at turn 1. That's Chris Nyland that's gone through ahead of Scott Parkin, so the Audi RS3 up into second position. A very good debut in this car from Chris Nyland, very experienced driver, been racing for a decade and a half or so now, but it's very quick in a straight line, that RS3. He powers away down towards Tower Bend. That will happen out of the picture, but up into second position overall now, Chris Nyland ahead of the 3-time Class A champion, Scott Parkin.
On screen, Edward Christie has made up a couple of positions there, so he's gone past the OnlyFans car of Matthew Simonite, and the Lintz Hammond Johnson Civic is looking a little bit sick, I'm afraid. I wonder if that might be a pit visitor before too much longer. It's going to be caught by the leader before too much longer, that's for certain. If you watch the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th place cars go through, then 6th place at the moment is the Porsche of Paul Simerson.
Oh, big moment for Paul Simerson down at Sunny. Huge spin for this GT4, I think Sprint Challenge spec car from the past. Paul's going to be able to get back on again. He was due to be sharing with Rich Stanton, he can't be here. I think he was a bit nervous about doing 2.5 hours himself. That's not really going to help his case very much, is it, within the first 10 minutes?
No, absolutely right. So there is the 83 car, the new 2nd place car, which is Chris Nyland, the car shared with Will Puttigill. There you can see the leader getting in amongst the traffic as well. Alan Hansen going past the Edward Christie car. We again saw the Lintz Honda looking a little bit the worse for wear, not quite going at the speed that would have expected it to at this stage of the race. So it's now Scott Parkin down to third position in the number 13 car. Behind him is Simon Mason in the car. Matthew Simonite opting to get absolutely out of the way of the leading cars coming through by driving across the straight line of the chicane.
Simon Mason's trying to use this to get past Scott Parkin. Instead, I think Dylan Brickner diving down the inside of Mason. These two cars with different drivers in came together yesterday. I'm not sure if they did a gain there because Dylan Brickner a bit slow through the corner as he tried to dive down the inside. So that's all good move for Chris Nyland, isn't it? He's pulled away in about of a second. We thought the traffic could play a role in this race, and it already has done.
Yeah, it's certainly split up to quite a significant effect. That second, third, and fourth and fifth place scrap, which was really quite close, but come the end of this lap, I think we see some quite significant gaps between those cars. So that 13 car is Scott Parkin. He's driving solo in this race. Here's Henderson trying to, well, not too hard to get past the number 37 BMW Scott Ferguson in the Z4. He does manage to get past him now at the hairpin, but I'm sure he'll be trying to build the biggest lead he possibly can here. Henderson sharing that car with Daniel Irving. He'll be taking over later on in the race. It's Nyland over the line in second place. Scott Parkin there in third position. Fourth position is Steinway Mason, and fifth place is Dylan Brichter, and there's now about 4 seconds between second and fifth, whereas before it was much less than that. And I thought the Ewan Lindskog was going to, no, his community pillar, it's got its indicator on, but the wrong one, indicating right rather than left.
Meanwhile, it's going to change to sixth position because Ricky Collard has got the better of Alok Inugar through the complex. So Collard starting to gain positions again. So there's the M2, you can see more of Harris is just behind Wayne Lawson. They're in 8th and 9th. Robert Greenwood makes the top 10 at this stage. Meanwhile in Class B, recently Alistair Lindsay has just set the fastest lap within the class. He's just taken third position away from Jan Whittaker. So Lindsay at that moment in the opening lap after getting pole, joining this championship from other categories. He's having a good outing here up into the top 3 in the early stages. Meanwhile, as you mentioned, Alan Henderson doing really well in this very heavily modified Mazda MX-5. There he is. Great bit of engineering from AK Automotive who have built this car. He leads the way ahead of a fully factory race car from Audi Sport, the RF3 of Chris Nyland, who started to pull away from Scott Parkin at this stage of the race.
Yeah, it certainly has. Parkin not getting away from Simon Mason though, in fourth position. Dylan Brichter fifth, and then sixth is Ricky Collard now, isn't it? Looking to sixth position. Over the line there we go. Then there on screen is Scott Parkin in the number 13 car, and in 13th position is the number 5 car, Jonathan Packard. He is leading Class B at the moment.
The lead gap in Class C is starting to come down between Jonathan Hayes in their BMW 3 Series and Ethan Simmons in the Honda Civic Type R. Just under 5 seconds now between those two. That was larger than that earlier on. Those cars may already have gone a lap down. I'm sure they will do. Of course, more powerful cars out front in Class A, which still sees that Mazda pulling away from the field. 4 seconds is Alan Henderson's gap. A rear-wheel drive car ahead of several front-wheel drive cars, actually, isn't it? There's lot of front-wheel drive cars behind. I wonder if that will change the tyre strategy at all over the course of 2.5 hours.
Possibly will do, yes. Just to explain the three classes. Class A is for cars up to 300 brake horsepower per tonne. Class B, the limit is 240, and Class C is 180 brake horsepower per tonne, and each class is a little bit less if you're a turbocharged car as well. It does have a bearing on the class that you go into. So I've had about 13 minutes of this race so far, just have completed the 9th lap. Alan Henderson leading by 4.25 seconds from Chris Nyland. Scott Parkin another couple of seconds behind him. About 1.2 seconds behind him is Simon Mason in 4th spot.
PDC Mason have got the Honda back out after a couple of minutes, so Ewan Lind's back into the race. And we shall see, I think we just got a car go through shot there. We'll see if they can get that car back up to speed. And that won't be a mandatory pit stop, of course. The pit window hadn't opened, so it didn't need to be 3 minutes. But they are now playing catch-up. But big look up from the second place car in Class B. Alex Wilkinson Hughes. I think he still is. He's in battle with GT4 Cayman of Lucas Fothergill, who perhaps a little bit further down the order than they would have expected at this stage of the race. That being a Class A car, already at the best part of a minute behind the leaders.
Yes, that's right. There's the leader in Class B. That's Jonathan Packer, who was successful yesterday in the road sports racing Class B. He's just put a lap on Matthew Semonite there in the 169 Mazda MX-5. So Packer going solo, done quite a lot of this type of racing now with the 750 Motor Club, as we're watching Chris Nyland go past the number 66 BMW.
Class C leader in this new car, I think, for this weekend, isn't it, for Paul Sabiani and Johnny Hayes. They raced the compact before. They're in this E36 328i, I think, for this season.
Yeah, it's been replacing the engine and the electrics to get it ready for endurance racing during the course of the winter months. Paul Sabiani and his teammate Johnny Hayes.
And they're leading Class C. They finished second in the championship so many times. They were so close 1 year ago, weren't they, to the title, and sort of lost out. Ewan Lynch is back in the pits, by the way, so that car wasn't as fixed as they may have hoped. There's the second place car in Class C. That's Ethan Simmons. And he continues to catch Johnny Hayes. The gap now 2.5 seconds between the BMW and the Honda. So Class C battle, I think, is starting to brew up here as Simmons continues to catch. And I think we can go down to the pit lane and hear from Tom Butterworth.
Yeah, just down here with the number 31 of the Honda Civic Type R that's being run this weekend with Ewan Lynch at the wheel at the moment, Gavin Johnson and Pip Hammond also at the wheel. Pip Hammond, you can see there on camera, they're under the bonnet. Had an issue with VTEC on this Honda Civic Type R. So VTEC is well and truly kicked out on this one. And they didn't say it was the first time that they put the car on track, so they're just trying to work through the kinks more than anything needed. It's a bit of a testing session. Hopefully they will be back out soon once they've made some running repairs to this one. I'll hand you back up to Ian and Josh.
Thanks, Tom. Good to hear from you, but sad to hear of the issues that PDC Racing crew are having there. Coming up to 213 minutes left to go in this race. What have you spotted, Josh?
I'm not sure what's going on there, but the cones have been knocked down at the hairpin, haven't they? Even Simmons was passing cars on the grass. I think it was a slow Audi, wasn't it? Or even more that caused all of that. But the reason that Simmons took to the grass is because he's in a hurry. He wants to catch Johnny Hayes, who's now only 1.7 seconds ahead of him. You see the two cars in shot there, the yellow BMW, 3 cars back. It's the Honda Civic Type R who's catching all the time for Ethan Simmons. He's got the pace over Jonathan Hayes at this stage of the race, and the gap coming down between the top two in Class C.
Yeah, Ethan Simmons sharing that car with Andrew Cooper, sometime Formula V racer as well.
I think they were expected to be out in a Ginetta, but that had problems on Friday, so good thing Andrew's got another car with the Honda Civic that he'd raced previously. So they've traded that in, and I think Ethan was a very late addition to that car because Neil Primrose was due to be here and driving it. I think Simmons had to get his race licence renewed in the week to make sure that he was fully legal to go race, because he wasn't expecting to be out this weekend. But he's giving this a good shot, isn't he? Going after the class leader Jonathan Hayes and catching all the time.
Of course, Simmons raced a Honda last season, didn't he, in this championship? Blue flags waving at the complex because there's of course a lot of traffic, lots of quick cars coming through, passing slower cars. There is the 19 car of Wayne Lawson, so he's in 8th position at the moment, just ahead of the yellow car that leads Class C with Johnny Hayes and Paul Sabiani, BMW 3 Series. And he's got a car that's faster than him coming past now, which that was Harris, wasn't it? Oliver Harris has gone through past him to put a lap on him now.
Of course, they were battling for that championship last year, weren't they? And they were different cars, both of them actually, but a big upgrade for Harris.
So there's now no cars between the two Class C leaders.
And several laps now. I think the gap was 7 or 8 seconds to start with, and Simmons has closed it down to 1.4 now. Best laps, they're pretty similar. but on the averages recently, the Honda is the quicker car with the youngster Ethan Simmons, more experienced driver ahead of him, Jonathan Hayes. Meanwhile, there's our Class A and overall leader, Alan Henderson, who was out with the Lotus yesterday, was on the podium in Roadsports, now going back to the Mazda that he's raced so much over the last few years, the AK Automotive car. And he is 6.5 seconds ahead of Chris Nyland at this stage. There's the PDC car going back out, so Ewan Linton will try again, see if the VTEC issue has been solved.
Scott Parkin is close to the second place car again than he has been, back up on terms with Chris Nyland. That time through took 6/10 out of Nyland to get the gap down to 6/10 of a second. So they're just into shot now actually at Clervaux Court, just going past Matthew Simonite in the Mazda MX-5. Oh, and up on the two wheels there was Nyland as he was trying to navigate the traffic, and that I think has given even more of an advantage to Scott Parkin there. Nyland flashing his lights at the Ginetta as he comes down the back straight towards Tower Bend, but Scott Parkin in the number 13 Audi TT right with him as they turn their way through Tower Corner.
This Audi RS3 is a car that's been racing at the Nürburgring in the VLN NLS in recent years, formerly racing the Italian TCR Championship, but Motion Motorsport running it now, and we'll possibly be sharing with Chris Nyland in this new car to them. Scott Parkin, well accustomed to this Audi TT that he's raced for several seasons with great success, but with some new drivers and new teams coming into Class A, looks like Scott Parkin's got his work cut out if he's going to keep this run of championship wins going.
That's right. So through into the complex they come. Just coming up against that other Scirocco. It's the one that they're about to pass. Stuart Mead, the driver from Aylesbury. Pulling out to pass him is Chris Nyland now. We've got one for the pits as well, which is the car of 36, which is the Keith Fryman Nick Wright car. He's into the pit lane. There you can see that now on the live stream. That's one of the cars from Class C. So
getting a little too early to make this a mandatory stop, so the team will go to work to see what the issue is, and I think it's a third stop, isn't it, for Ewan Linton, who's back into the pit lane as those problems persist.
Yeah, that's right. Race continues though for second position overall, second in Class A as well. Out of Tower Bend goes Chris Nyland. Seen racing a variety of different cars over the years in the 750 Motor Club. Actually done Type R Trophy, of course, for a time.
Yeah, he was the runner-up on that years ago now. There's a brake fire, I think, or yeah, there's a bit of a brake fire, isn't there, on that Civic down in pit lane. Just going through shot there was the car second within Class B, Alex Wilkinson Hughes, the Mazda MX-5, the supercharged car, trying to chase after the Golf there, the lead Jonathan Packer, who is still 4 or 5 seconds ahead, and then Alistair Lindsay in his Club Enduro debut, I think today, he remains third in Class B. Meanwhile, about a second continues because Chris Nyland can't shake off the attentions of Scott Parkin as they turn their way out of the final corner and complete the 15th lap of this race.
Just looked out on the Class C battle. Not a lot of change really between Ethan Simmons in second in the Honda and the car ahead of him, Johnny Hayes in the BMW. Still about 1.2 seconds apart, but lapping in similar lap times for the last couple of laps, it would seem. But yeah, these two, second and third, that we can see on screen now, number 83 Chris Nyland, number 13 Scott Parkin. Parkin pulls out like he's going to try and take a different line into Tower. Just reminding Chris Nyland that he's there. Carries a bit more speed into Tower, I would say. As the 23 car through in fourth place, Simon Mason. And fifth is the car we just briefly saw a shot of. That's the number 6 car. Here's that Class C lead battle though, Josh.
Yeah, still with Hayes ahead, isn't it? But just inching up to the back of him is that TP3 Civic of Simmons, who's just done the fastest lap of the class on that lap, 136.4, and he's getting closer all the time then to Jonathan Hayes in this 1999 E36.328. That's the RM Motorsport assisted with the build. And the Canet Racing team preparing the machine. They've finished third 3 times. They've finished second in Class C the last 3 years in the championship. but they continue on in the class lead for now.
That's right. Reminder that the cars in this championship, they'll use Motorsport UK list 1A, 1B or 1C tyres with a tyre width limit for the cars in Class C. So they're on racing tyres but not slicks. 25 minutes of the race have gone, or 24 minutes of the race have gone, I correct myself. Still very tight for second and third, but they're gradually losing ground to Alan Henderson. He's got the lead of the race now up to more than 6 seconds over Nyman and Parkin. On
Ricky Collard's not come through at the end of the lap, I don't think. And he's into the pits, but on a delayed lap, significantly delayed lap. There would have seemed a problem with this new to the team Volkswagen Golf, the Rob Fennick owned car. So this is before the pit stop window. Of course, they could be the 30-second penalty. Yeah, they are going to the penalty area, but why was it such a slow lap for Ricky Collard? He lost over 20 seconds that time up to the pit lane.
Curious, isn't it?
The whole pace has not been what you'd expect as well, really, from that stint.
Not really, no. We're watching there the 55 car, which is Paul Simerson, who's in 8th place now in the Porsche. You have that being off but sunny in the early stages of the race. There is the 6th place car, 44, Alok Yengar in the Cupra. Let's say the F1000 racer in the past, drive from Pune in India. And the next car behind him, as far as the classification is concerned, is Wayne Lawson in the number 19 Audi. There is the car in the penalty box, and it feels like it's been there for more than 30 seconds. I think it's just inching away now.
It came into pit lane about a minute ago.
And it's served to stop, and now is going straight into the team's clutches. So they obviously decided it was going to come into the pits anyway for some work to be done, because there is a problem with it. Hence a slow lap, and while they've done that, they've served the penalty as well.
They have to do that?
I don't know, but it's not an actual pit stop though, is it? So maybe they are.
I don't know. Anyway, maybe they've got problems. It might not matter anyway.
Might be, yes,
a shame.
Could be academic.
Shame for the team. So Alan Henderson leads by 5 seconds now. Paul Simerson still going after that big spin he had up at Sunny, isn't he? He's there in 9th position. The ex-Ferrari Challenge racer who's concentrating on the 750 Motor Club this year in this Jaguar Club Enduro Championship and in road sports as well. It's a Cayman GT4 RS Club Sport 4-litre engine, a car that was produced by Porsche UK. I think it raced in the Sprint Challenge previously, and is run by Simon Green Motorsport for this season. Down in the pit lane is Tom Bush, where perhaps he's getting to talk on the story of Ricky Collard's Golf.
So it looks like the 10 Volkswagen Golf, the Fenwick and Ricky Collard entry, certainly for the most part, going to have quite a lengthy pit stop here. We wondered whether this was very off schedule. Obviously they came in and had a look at took the penalty. It seems to be an issue with the front left suspension on this car. Potentially the arms is broken, or shock absorber. I'm just going to see if we can sneak a quick peek in here and have a quick look. Yeah, definitely something missing from there, and it's dropped right down. So Ricky Collard has actually exited the car. Not sure whether he's just rehydrating or what. See if I can catch him. In fact, he's already helmet off here, so this could be curtains already for number 10. We'll keep an eye on it here. We'll bring you pictures as well. If there's anything more to update, I will let you know.
Thanks, Tom. The race continues then. Could be up to the half-hour mark in the race. Looks like it might be an early bath though for Ricky Collard, unfortunately, with already the helmet off. The car hasn't been in the pit lane. It's certainly going to be there for a while by the looks of it, before anybody's able to get back out on the track. Our leader has just lapped the Class B leader over my right shoulder out through the complex, so that's Alan Henderson lapping Jonathan Packer, who's about 5 seconds clear, I think, of Alex Wilkinson Hughes in the Class B lead. So the lead gaps are in descending order of significance, aren't they? Class A has got the biggest lead, followed by Class B, and Class C I think is still the smallest lead. I think I'm right in saying that, between Johnny Hayes and Ethan Simmons, because they were only 0.6 of a second last time they crossed the line.
They might be close on that now as
Yes.
they turn through Tower Bend. They're lapping some of their Class C competition by the looks of things, but it's great to see Class C very competitive, isn't it, at this point of the race. Through the Essence they go. Of course, this is the class you can race really on the smallest budget in the least developed cars, and it's super competitive at the front. Simmons really sideways through Barcroft. We've seen Civic should do that all weekend, haven't we, in the Time Bar Trophy, and this car runs a very similar specification. They're in second position in the class. Pit window will open in about a minute's time, won't it? So the next time round, should they wish to do so, it might be a bit early, pit stops can sort of happen. Sort of a standard length race to go, isn't it? That 30 minutes and starts longer than what majority of rounds will be over the course of the season. The car that was lapped was the Daniel Gibson driven Ginetta G40 that's running fourth in class actually. With a few problems, hasn't there, for some of the other cars in the class. Been a bit of a race of attrition for others within Class C, but for the lead of the race, it's close as ever between Hayes and Simmons. 9/10 of a second was the margin at the line. They're very shortly going to be lapped by the overall leader again, because there is Alan Henderson.
Yeah, and behind Henderson, it's still very close for second overall as well between Nyland and Parkin. It says 3/4 of a second on the timing screen. It looked like it was a bit less than that as they came out of the hairpin that time, but there is Henderson on the screen now in the AK Motorsport car, number 45 in the lead of the race. Just the next two cars is going to pass are the two for the Class C leader. They'll be lapped shortly. While that's happening, as the pit lane window is opening, we'll head down to Tom Butterworth in the pit lane.
Managed to catch a very, very quick work with Collard in the actual pit spots in the garage itself. It does look like this is going to be, at the very least, a lengthy delay. They are trying to fix the car in the pit lane at the moment, so it looks like they are going to try and go back out. Meanwhile, the number 31 Civic Type R that was in the pits earlier, the Lintz, Johnson and Hammond entry, they are now back out on the track, as is the other Civic Type R as well, which has also been in with some issues as well. But they're all back in. So with the exception of the Class A Golf here, it's still in the pit. Everybody else is back out on the track.
Thanks, Tom. So we are now into the pit open phase of the race. I don't think anyone's taken advantage of that yet, though, Josh.
No, I didn't even think they would do. Although you should be able to do it on one more pit stop from here, really, shouldn't you? Because that's what would happen in a traditional race. But maybe if tyre changes are going to be a factor as well, you don't want to pit too early. So it's not a big surprise, I don't think, that we haven't got any early pit callers. I think there will be a variety of strategies that will happen over the course of the remaining 2 hours. So we will keep an eye on those. Meanwhile, the Class C battle is as close as ever. There is still now just a quarter of a second between Hayes and Simmons. There's Dylan Brick, who's starting to lose a bit of touch with the top four now. He's there in 5th position. He's got the Aston Lindsay Audi to lap the car that is 3rd position within Class B. And Brickter should be able to do that in a straight line. But it's great to see the car out there, really. We had such a large accident yesterday after contact. Big effort from the team to get the car out. It was questionable, I think, for a while, but the team have done it, and it's running in a strong position. They're in 5th position for Dylan Brickter. The twin car of Scott Parkin, there he is in 3rd position. He is currently lapping the Class C lead battle, which isn't quite as close as it was.
No, it's not. I guess the traffic can work both ways, can't it? It can disrupt both the cars that are going past and the cars that are being passed as well. And I think that might be what's happened there. There's our Class B. It's not too far away from all of this either. That's Jonathan Packett in the number 5 car, now with a lead for around about 8 or 9 seconds over Alex Wilkinson, who's second in that class in the Mazda.
It's all roughly right after half an hour. There's a lap between Class A and B, and then a further lap basically between B and C. So how to weight gaps work, that means everyone at the front is really running on a similar sort of pace to one another, aren't they? They've all come together at this point. Hayes on that lap just did his personal best, so despite being lapped, he's able to go quickly and the fastest lap within the class of the race. 1:35.722 to extend his lead out to over a second.
That's right. So give me a quick rundown on the order then for those of you at the circuit who don't have the benefit of the timing tower. Number 45 is the race leader, that's Alan Henderson in the Mazda. Second is number 83, Chris Nyland in the Audi. Third is number 13, Scott Parkin in another Audi. Fourth is number 23, Simon Mason in the Cupra. Fifth is number 6, that's Dylan Brichter in the Audi. 6th, 44, Alan Piengar in the Seat. 7th is number 1, Oliver Harris in the BMW. 8th is another Audi, that's Wayne Lawson. 9th is number 55, Paul Simonson in the Porsche. And rounding out the top 10 is the number 47, that's out of Robert Greenwood. Class B, that's headed by Jonathan Packer. Number 5, he's in 12th overall in the Golf. From in second place within that class, number 97, Alex Wilkinson Hughes in the Mazda. Third in that class is the Audi of number 46, Alistair Lindsay. Number 66 is in the lead of Class C, that's Johnny Hayes in the BMW. From the Honda of Ethan Simmons, number 41. And third within that class is the Scott Ferguson BMW, number 37.
Good battle ongoing for 7th position, which has changed recently. Oliver Harris has got through into that position. Meanwhile, the first pit visitor within the window is a very significant one, because the Class C leader into the pit lane for Jonathan Hayes. So he's at the far end of the pit lane. And he's not the only one coming in, because Dylan Brichter from 5th position is into pit lane in the Ryan Parkin Audi TT. So we see if these change drivers, because of course they may be doing a double to start off, or they may change drivers and then get back in later.
Yeah, that's right. Different options present themselves, and therefore after this stage of the race it's not always immediately clear to who is, for certain, who is in all of the cars. When you have this system of 3 sections of the race split by 2 pit stops. Here's the view at the Jim Clark S's. It's Jonathan Packer coming through in the number 5 list. Just got Ethan Simmons behind him now, who will have assumed the lead of Class C, with the BMW having come into the pits, and it will lose, as we said, probably about 2 laps as a result of that. So the order will be very jumbled now these pit stops have started, and try and figure out who's in the effective lead of each class at any given point in time. There's the 297 car going through, that's Jan Whittaker, the ex-Clio racer in the Porsche Cayman, for the driver from the East Midlands, from Retford. On the inset there you can see Stuart Meads Shorko into the pits as well. Yeah,
this Cayman made its debut in Club Enduro at the end of last season, the TMC Race Engineering prepared car. As we complete another lap up front with the second place car into the pits. Is that on the graphic? It's not showing up on the timing screen here. Oh, that hasn't been. It's not refreshing. So I think the second place car is in the pits.
It is, yeah, it is. On my screen, it's certainly shown as being in. So that's Chris Nyland in. So whether he's going to stay in the car or hand over to Will Potterkill remains to be seen. He's only done 37 minutes of the race so far, so it may be that he'll have a bit more time in the car, but so each team will have a different strategy. What we've not really thought about yet is the possibility of a safety car at some point. Some teams may be just mindful of that and trying to work their way around the safety cars, even though, as Josh mentioned earlier on, you cannot take your stop once the safety car is out. There is the particular Nyland car in pit lane.
Yeah, it always looks like that Chris Nyland waiting to get back in.
Yeah, patiently, because it's a 3-minute stationary stop, of course, so there's no particular rush if there's not too much work to be done on the car. Drivers can take their time a little bit. Yes, there's that Jan Whittaker Cayman again in the number 297. Good to see that car out this weekend. Club Enduro. Sharing with another fellow clear racer, Mark Enoch. Over the line there goes Jonathan Packer. That is to complete his 24th lap in the race in the lead of Class B. We can head down to the pit lane now though. Tom Butterworth is going to give us another update.
Just keeping an eye on pit stops here as they take place, scheduled and unscheduled, as the Collard and Fenwick entry looks like they may be going back out fairly soon. They've just put fuel in the car. Darkside Developments have made their first pit stop, so that's right park in that one. They changed tyres as well on that one. And it looks like Fenwick is going back out in the number 10 Golf after their lengthy delay. Also the 83 entry, which is the Putkill and Nyland Audi RS3 TCR. They've just made their first scheduled stop. All went very smoothly, it looks like here. They're just waiting for the mandatory time to tick down. Engine is already back on and just ticking over nice and smoothly. And looks like they will be heading out in just a moment.
Thank you very much, Tom. Tom Butterworth there in the pit lane. So working into the 40th minutes of this race. And there's the 46 car we're looking at the moment, which is Alistair Lindsay's Audi TT. And he's just been passed by another Audi, which is that of Wayne Lawson, the more powerful car from the class ahead of it. So there's the orange car we've been sharing with Paul O'Neill, who, if you were watching at the pre-show at the start of the day's racing, we've heard from Paul and Wayne talking about that car. There is the number 1 car that's going through. That's the reigning champion, Oliver Harris, making a move there on Alex Wilkinson Hughes in one of the front-running Class B cars. And then who was behind that? Didn't get a good look. But either way, I think that was Wilkinson Hughes that's straight line the chicane. Yes, it was. He's back on the circuit now then, Josh.
Fractionally slower stop than perhaps it needed to be for the erstwhile Class C leader, Jonathan Hayes, 3 minutes 40, so maybe lost 10 or 15 seconds there. We'll see what the competition does a bit later on. What you don't want in a 2.5 hour race is your laptop stop connected to the internet. That's what's currently happened over here, so we'll see if we can solve that. But could have happened in a different race. Oh, now this is a little bit smoky, isn't it? That's Alistair Lindsay's Audi TT. They had problems yesterday, if you remember, couldn't start the road sports race. It may not be going for much longer in this Club Enduro race.
No, we saw Jan Whittaker's car in the pit lane being refuelled as well there. But yeah, keep an eye on that Alistair Lindsay car, which looked a little bit sick. Now, has it been putting anything noxious down on the circuit is the question. Is that going to cause problems for other drivers out there with a slippery surface maybe? The inside lights, Wilkinson Hughes goes the number 19 car of Wayne Lawson. He's going past the pit lane. I think we can head down to the pit lane once again.
I just wanted to bring you some pictures of what's going on here with the 297 Class B entry. This Porsche Cayman, this Jan Whittaker and Mark Amott driven. Fuel tank right in the front of this one, and so because it is, and they've got very, very hot brakes, which we've already seen a couple of times in the pit lane already. Once the drivers come in and the brakes stop rotating, they do tend to catch fire. So they put this cloth over the front wheel here. I just thought it was interesting to bring you that. So they thought of that. That's a safety feature, clearly. Very rudimentary safety feature, but a safety feature nonetheless. I just thought it was interesting. I've never seen that before in all my years in and around motorsport. I thought it might be something that the people at home might enjoy. Back to you guys.
Well, there's the number 10 car, which is back out on track. We think it might be Rob Fennick that's now out in that. It was in the pit lane for quite some time, though. Scott Parkin from second place has headed into the pit lane. So that means that it's going to be Simon Mason that will move up into second position, and an even bigger lead for Alan Henson. There you can see on the inset now Scott Parkin's car. Of course, he's driving solo, so we know he's going to be in the car throughout the 2.5 hour duration of this Skill Club Enduro Championship race. And there's the Nyland and Putkill Audi that was one of the earliest of the front runners to stop, Josh.
Yeah, a pretty good pit stop, just under 3.5 minutes where you want to be. The good news from this end of the commentary box is what we saw earlier: stopping, restarting, fixing everything. So all good, hopefully, for the rest of the race now. Jonathan Packard just set a PB, so he's still going quickly. He hasn't pitted yet, has he? The Class B leader. He leads now by the best part of 20 seconds. Just to the 1:32.394, a personal best last time around. And unsurprisingly, Alistair Lindsay's now pit lane after that smooth moment we saw through the Eshes, so that might be a longer pit stop. Of course, they can turn this into a mandatory pit stop now. unlike some of those who had problems earlier on in the race. It's got Parkins in the pits at the moment, so interesting to see if he comes out ahead or not in the car. He's been doing battle with, and I'm watching at the moment with Chris Nyland and William Buttergill, Audi RS3 towing its way around the complex at the moment. Dropped all the way down to 14th overall. That's how long the pit stop is. That's how tight the Paxton is in this stage.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to go, isn't it? Whether Parkin does get out ahead of the Nyland and Buttergill car. Jonathan Pack is still out there in the Class B lead as the Ginetta just rejoins the circuit behind him. That's Daniel Gibson and John Dundee in the number 3 car, Class C machine, Pirate Blue machine. There's Packaway making his way through the chicane. He's still got an ever-growing lead. I think it's about 18 seconds now over Alex Wilkinson Hughes in second place in that class. So he's looking, you'd think, favourite to win Class B today, but there's still a long way to go. About 3/4 of this race left to go. Car 46 in the pit lane has a problem. That is the Alistair Lindsay car, isn't it, which was smoking. Let's head down to Tom Butterworth now. He's got an update about that car.
We'll just bringing you some pictures of the number 46 Class B Alistair Lindsay piloting Audi TT. Now Alistair Lindsay running the entire race by himself. Not sure if they mentioned that on commentary already, because can't really hear it down here in the pit lane, unfortunately. But yeah, he's just stepped out of the car. I wasn't going to show a mic in front of his face, but he's told us that the car's overheating at the moment, which is probably what this noise is that you can hear in the background, this high-pitched noises. They've got a leaf blower in the front of it, trying to get some cooler air into the radiator of that. It's also got a bit of grass as well in the radiator grill. Working away underneath it, and hopefully they will be going back out. But of course, Alistair doing the full race on his own. We'll hand you back upstairs once again.
So that's Alistair Lindsay in trouble in the pit lane, Josh.
Yeah, Scott Parkin's pit stop was about a second quicker than the Audis, but interestingly, the Parkin's come out a long way ahead. So I'm not sure quite why the Nyland and Buttergill car seem to have lost quite a lot of time, despite not having the slow pitch stop. They seem to have at the end of this lap. They feel like Scott Parkin's made quite a bit of time now.
Yeah, absolutely right. So if we mention that the 23 car is in from second, that's Simon Mason, the car shared with Chris Boylan, and 23 second for CCR.
The screen I've got here is suggesting cars that are changing drivers and ones that are not. So, shall we believe it? It suggests that Dan Gibson has handed car number 3 over to John Dundee, whereas Chris Nyland has remained in car number 83.
Okay, well, let's go with that.
Thank you to TSL if that's all accurate news.
Yes, if it is, fantastic. If not, no thanks to you whatsoever. But we'll go with that on the basis it's better than anything else that we've got. So, also in the pits at the moment is the 69 Porsche Cayman GT4 of Lucas Fothergill. Handing over, he will be handing over, because that is a car that's triple driven with his father Marcus and with Jonathan Ellsworth as well.
So Scott Parkin is 15 seconds ahead of Chris Nyland, we think, at the wheel still, which is lapping 5 seconds off of where it was, the Nyland Buttergill car, and losing significant time to Scott Parkin, and presumably therefore being caught by what would appear to still be Dylan Richter aboard the other car. Well, that's 19 seconds behind. But certainly, as things go, a change in reality for second place, with Chris Nyland's car losing out to Scott Parkin.
Yeah, obviously they're much further down the order actually than on the timing screen, but there's a lot of cars ahead of them that have yet to make their first mandatory pit stop, and it could be quite a while before some cars do, because there's
coming up with 1/3 distance, aren't you?
Yeah.
So if you're splitting it in three equal parts, this is sort of the time to pit.
Yeah, but if you're not,
no need to do that.
No, there's no need to do that. So you could, if your fuel tank allows, go very deep into the race before you make your first stop and almost make them back to back. Some people may well do.
Alok Kivar has come in as well, hasn't he? So quite a few of the front runners are pitting for their first pit stop. Class B leaders still haven't pitted, have they? Jonathan Paxton now 18 seconds ahead of Alex Wilkinson Hughes. And in Class C, Ethan Simmons continuing on. With Scott Ferguson now promoted to second after the BMW earlier. See Lucas Fothergill's out now of the Cayman, number 69. Lucas, who is from North Yorkshire at Harrogate. He started racing only last year, but he's also racing in the Iberian Supercars Championship this season. There in this 2022 Porsche Cayman GT4 Plus squad he shares with his father Marcus. And a late addition to that squad for this weekend was John Ellsworth in that Zentek Motorsport prepared machine. There they go, back into the race. I think the Simon Mason pit stop has been completed. He shared with Chris White Allen, and that was a fairly decent stop too. So we'll see what they come out in comparison to others as well.
Watched on screen there the car that had been leading in Class C before it made its pit stop. Hayes and Subiani BMW, that's going past the Ed Christie E36 M3.
Is this the Mason Whalen car just behind the Butterfield Island car?
It might well be. Didn't quite get a full shot of it, but could well be the case.
So from this screen, Marcus Fothergill has taken over 69.
Okay. Go with that.
Well, yeah, it's 23, isn't it? So what appears to still be Simon Mason at the wheel, he is, after that pit stop, right on turns with the Chris Nylon Audi that's not got the pace that he had in the first half of this motor race.
Okay. So we'll have 50 minutes, so basically a third of the way through this race now, still 100 minutes to go.
In the background, the battle for third overall is starting to brew up because Wayne Lawson is being caught by the recovering Paul Simerson. The Audi RS3 just ahead of the Porsche Cayman. They've got a couple of Class B cars to that.
Yeah, only 9/10 of a second between them. The car behind them in the order is into the pits now, isn't it? That's the Robert Greenwood, Robert Rand, and that's Cooper, number 47, isn't it? That's was from 5th position, so that's going into the pits.
Yeah, I think Robert Rand in his first weekend of racing got that podium yesterday in Motorsport with a strategy that worked out for them.
Yep, and then it's Joe Williams that's next up, and then it's Jonathan Packer, the Class B leader, now up to 7th because he's not yet made his stop, and he's 20 seconds clear of Alex Wilkinson Hughes in the Mazda.
Alok Inyagast and Ben Williams, I believe, at 44. That's made its way out of pit lane now, the Cupra. Meanwhile, Scott Parkin is still the leading pit stop car, isn't he? He's in 9th overall, lapping quickly. He's done a 1 minute 29 on that last lap. He lapping in the high 128s on average, which is still a bit slower than Alan Henderson. He's sort of in the mid-28s at this stage. Alan Henderson is keeping that pace up. There he is, the race leader. He's keeping a high pace up in that Mazda MX-5.
Yeah, certainly is. He's putting in some consistent lap times, building a lead.
Jonathan Hayes is back in the pits, the erstwhile Class C leader.
And a change of position there. That's a change for third because Paul Simerson's got himself ahead of Wayne Lawson there on the way down to Clervaux Corner.
The Hayes and Subiani car's going back out, but before the 3 minutes, so this won't be a mandatory stop. You can see that on the inset. An unscheduled pit stop for one of the main contenders within that Class C battle, so a short pit stop it would be, but not the second mandatory stop.
And obviously they thought that it was too early to turn it into the mandatory stop as well. They think they're going to need to stop again before the pit window closes.
So that pit stop, I can tell you, was exactly a minute, so that's what they've lost in reality. Another driver change down there in pit lane. Ewan Lintz has handed 31 over to Gavin Johnson after their first scheduled stop, as the Class C leader has made his way down pit lane, Ethan Simmons.
The team have made it entirely of sort of past classic stock catch races. Gavin Johnson, Pip Hammond and Ewan Lintz.
I think Ewan Lintz is out of Grantham next week.
Yeah, so could and former.
Surely Pip will be out in the Nova at some point.
Possibly, yes.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, we saw him yesterday, of course, in that car in the Road Sports race with Alex Hall, getting a podium out of it.
Into the pits comes the second place car of Oliver Harris, the reigning champion. But a new car this weekend, the M2 CS. and that will promote Paul Simerson up to second, but he's the best part of a lap down now, so Alan Henderson's lead is over 1.25 minutes.
And he comes into the pits.
So into the pits comes our race leader, so we see where he comes out in comparison to Scott Parkin.
He's right underneath our commentary position as well. He's the first car in the pit lane, so his teammate Daniel Irving is there with the helmet on. And Alan Henderson gets out of the car, which he has to do before any fuel can go in. So Henderson is there ready to assist with the fueling. There's 4 of them, including the 2 drivers running that car by the looks of things. One team member has got the blower on to try and keep everything cool at the front of the car. Fuel is going in, it's nearly emptied that container now, I can see from the window.
Meanwhile, on the screen, we've got a very good battle continuing between Chris Nyland and Simon Mason, who are in podium contention still, the Audi and the Cupra. They're just turning their way through the complex. They are, at this point, the second and third place cars who have pitted but are battling for 10th overall. On the inside, look, Simon Mason here. Can't quite get the better of Chris Nyland's Audi at this stage.
Second container of fuel is going in. You can just about, well, you can no longer see that on the inset. That's going into the Alan Henderson car.
What we can see is the Jack Collins. What was the erstwhile second place car of Oliver Harris? Jack Collins getting aboard the BMW M2 CS, and Jack, who's going to be racing in British GT this year. He was the runner-up in the Genesis GT Championship last year. Should be pretty rapid in that BMW M2.
It's Irving that's getting into the car now. Daniel Levy into the number 45 car. So Alan Henderson is getting out. He might get back in, of course, for the final stint. That's a possibility.
Change has happened, doesn't it? Simon Mason is through, ahead of the Audi of Chris Nyland for what is 9th position at this stage, but could be a very significant position as things work their way out. Another driver change has happened. Scott Ferguson has handed over to Neil Luke in the number 37 BMW Z4, I can tell.
Which was second in Class C, probably at the time it went in. Ethan Simmons is still out there. Oh no, they're in now as well, aren't they? Ethan Simmons and Andrew Cooper. I think we're going to get the driver change there, but they're in the pit lane as well from the lead of Class C.
Looks like Wayne Lawson has got himself back ahead of Paul Simerson for what will now be the race lead. So Wayne Lawson has taken the lead of the race on the road away from what would have been Paul Simerson. And they are very close indeed, just a quarter of a second between them at the start of this lap.
In fact, we can see Wayne Lawson on screen now, and it's Simerson ahead. So it's a ding-dong battle between these two. Either of them going to come in this time? No, they're not. So they're coming up to the line. This is to complete lap number 37 of the race, and there's just about exactly a second between them in the lead. And Alan Henderson still showing third on the time screen, but of course his car in the pit lane now in the hands of Daniel Irving. He's the best lap of the race at 1:27.360 so far in this race. It's just about to go back out, I think. Yeah, it's been pushed out, and there, as you can see on the screen, Daniel Irving now going out into the race in the number 45. So we'll see where he picks up, and indeed what his pit stop time was.
Scott Parkin's only at the complex, so I think the Mazda's still going to be with the advantage. So a good pit stop there from the AK Automotive team, and I'll tell you that pit stop in a moment. We're going to head down into the pit lane.
Just give you an update on the race leaders came in as we saw, fairly standard pit stop there, didn't seem to be any dramas, and likewise also for Jack Collins, just could be expected. The MX-5 did have a little bit of an issue once they pushed back. It lost about 2 seconds, it seemed to get underway again for a brief moment, but they are back out onto track now. Up to full speed it seems. Just a quick update on the race leaders.
Thanks, Tom, for that further update.
As Tom said, it was slightly delayed, 3 minutes 34, though means they haven't lost much time. They continue to lead the race, and this screen says that Daniel Irving got in the car, so it seems to be all updating with great accuracy.
TSL are probably listening to us, Josh. That might be the problem. Anyway, that's good that that has worked. So just coming up to the 1 hour mark in this race, 58 minutes of it have gone. There's the erstwhile Class A leader, Johnny Hayes and Paul Subgoni. Who's in that car now, did we think? We'll of course have that extra pit stop.
We believe it's still
Johnny Hayes, okay, in the 66 car. Yeah, which is still showing as third in Class C, despite its various woes, which has resulted in that extra unscheduled stop, which isn't one of the mandatory ones that it will need to take during the course of this race.
Slightly longer stop for Ethan Simmons. That was 3 minutes 53, probably about 20 seconds longer than it needed to be, but that might not be surprising in Class C because they don't have quite, I think, quite some expensive fuel and equipment. They tend to take a little bit longer with that. Seemingly, it's still Ethan Simmons at the wheel of that one. They've come out second in the class, 50 seconds ahead of Jonathan Hayes after that unscheduled stop. The leaders who haven't yet pitted are pretty close on the road, aren't they, with Paul Simerson and Wayne Lawson turning their way through the hairpin. Simerson still, of course, solo driven. I imagine how Wayne Lawson's driving here is that Paul O'Neill will get in at the next stop and then probably bring it home.
Yeah.
So down the straight they come. So they are two of the cars that haven't pitted. Joe Williams is another, isn't he? They're in third. Interestingly, in Class B, neither Jonathan Packer or Alex Wilkinson Hughes have pitted, have they? So top two in Class B as they have been all race long, yet to pit.
Right.
Looks like the gap between Irving and Parker is 13 seconds for sort of the race lead in reality. So that was roughly, I think, what it was before the pit stops. So we'll see what Daniel Irving's pace is. He did all right yesterday in road sports, didn't he? But we'll see if Scott Parker's able to bring that gap down.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there wasn't a lot to choose between them yesterday. I think we're now with just the sort of front five cars and Matthew Simonite to have yet to make their stop. And as I say that, Joe Williams comes in to make his stop in the number 88 Seat Cooper TCR, the driver from Lampton, the 37-year-old mechanic who was up to third position, with other drivers having made their stops ahead of him. Ex-Bruce Winfield car that he races that he's had since late 2004.
One of the Class C cars had a grassy moment just at the end of it there. That was Neil Luke in the fourth place Z4 within the class, about to be lapped by the Class B leader, which is that Golf of Jonathan Packer, who leads Class B by 24 seconds now over Alex Wilkinson Hughes. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead overall, Paul Simerson now getting away from Wayne Lawson with 3.5 seconds between the two Class A cars. One Class A car that's going very quickly at the moment is Marcus Fothergill, who's taken over from his son. He's just done a personal best lap for that car, 1 minute 31.9, which is one of the quickest cars on the circuit at the moment. Perhaps unsurprisingly, because Marcus is a massively experienced driver, a former Brit car champion, and you go well further back in history books. He raced in the British GT Championship for 3 years, about a quarter of a century ago now, in GT2 Porsches. He's also raced in the Daytona 24 Hours 26 years ago, that was now. Great to have Marcus part of the championship this year, and he is consistently lapping very quickly in that Cayman. It's currently in 14th position.
That Wayne Lawson Audi that we've got on screen now, I just wonder if there's an issue with that car, because it's losing time quite quickly to Paul Simerson, so I wonder if everything's not quite tickety-boo with that one. It might all be for the pits at the end of this lap, I would suggest, if there is a problem with it. But Simerson has made several seconds on that car. It was 3.6 seconds at the start of the lap, and I think that might have more than doubled now, actually, as the Audi comes through. No, it's staying out there.
A car that's just done an unscheduled pit stop in is car number 3, John Dundee, done a pit stop about a minute and a half. So that's one that will show 2 pit stops on your screens, but that second stop not a mandatory pit stop, so they'll have to come in again.
Yep, that's right. Have to be stationary for 3 minutes for your stop to count in the Skoda Club Enduro Championship. Usually it's just 1 mandatory stop, but it's 2 this weekend because it's a long race, 2.5 hours. Most of the races this season have 2 hours, with the exception of the one at Alton Park, which is a 100-minute race, as often is the case. There's the 6 car. There's that Dylan Brichter or Ryan Parkin now. It's
I believe it's still Dylan Brichter,
Okay.
who has been catching Christopher Nyland, who's been past by Simon Mason, losing time to him. So Nyland being closed in by Dylan Brichter all the time.
And catching on the road the Wayne Lawson car as well, which I think is probably going to be heading into the pits quite soon. I thought it might do it at the end of the previous lap, but I've now received some intelligence that it is certainly due to make a stop fairly shortly. Got the number 6 car there, Dylan Brichter, the Audi TT, making its way towards the complex. There is the Lawson and O'Neill car, number 19, with the Motorsport livery on the side of it, heading down towards the hairpin. Out of the hairpin it comes, and it's not going to dive for the pit lane either this time. So, yeah, not sure what the definition of soon is in the context of these pit stops. Wayne Lawson curling enjoying himself as we go into the second hour of the race.
Good pit stop for the Joe Williams car, 3 minutes 26, pit in to pit out. So that car has got back onto the circuit in good time, the Cupra. And he will review back to the circuit. Another driver who is solo throughout the duration. Continue to watch the Darkside Audi of Dylan Brichter. A 2016 car this with the 2-litre TDI engine. Big chunk of cars here through the S's, which includes the RS3, as we believe Chris Nyland at the wheel.
Yes.
Has Paul Simerson far behind, on the road at this stage, who has just behind him Jonathan Hayes, who's back into third within Class C, with Matthew Simonite leading the category yet to pit.
Yes, so that will change around, won't it, when he does so? Because he's actually only 34 seconds ahead of Ethan Simmons and Andrew Cooper, who haven't pitted. My reading of the screen is correct. There's Simerson, the race leader on the road, of course, yet to make his stop, going solo, of course, so he didn't need to worry about especially the driving weekly. Right, soon has happened, because Wayne Lawson is now heading into the pit lane, and we'll see whether down there he hands over to Paul O'Neill or not, or whether Wayne is going to stay in the car for a bit longer.
Another driver change that has happened, slightly longer pit stop for car number 73, the Audi. Stephen Moore has handed over to Charles Hanson, but down the pit lane, I think Tom is with the erstwhile leaders.
So we're just going to try and walk you through a pit stop here that's taking place between Wayne Lawson and Paul O'Neill. Paul O'Neill about to jump into the car. He's already fully suited up, kitted, ready to go, as you would expect at this point. Helping Wayne out, because of course Wayne uses hand controls on his car. He can jump straight into the wheelchair that the guys have got prepared for him, as you can see here. Great team effort. They're going to jump out. We've also got some fresh rubber to go on the front tyres. I spoke to Wayne earlier on in the day, and he said that they're going to run the same rear tyres for the entire race, and they will change the front tyres, which are actually changing now during this pit stop. We are almost halfway through this race already, unbelievably. Fresh fuel going in. I think there'll be a couple of jugs of fresh fuel as well. So we've got the mechanic here as well, ready to go with the fire extinguisher. Safety first. There's the first jug completed. Second jug being grabbed now and being run out. Pretty heavy, those things as well. Not the easiest bits of kit to handle in and out of the garage. Mechanic here ready with the tyre guns as well, and Paul O'Neill standing by ready to jump in. He's just stood next to Wayne. I think they've had a very quick debrief on how the car's handling and going now. I'm going to stand out the way because the air jack is going to go in. Make a big noise as that goes in, the car will jack up. Tyres are already being taken off. See there, so they're done. Huge amounts of brake dust falling out of the tyres as well as they come off. Like a shower of carbon spreading all over the pit lane. Fresh tyres already going on. There'll be an oil check potentially as well. Just checking for any damage and debris inside. Oh, not sure what's happened there, but a lot of spray has just come out of that. As they went to put the bonnet down, something sprayed out of that. very unsure what that was. It looked like maybe a radiator cover had come off or something. It smells like coolant. Oh, so not such a routine pit stop anymore. Definitely smells soapy, and it's leaking all over the pit lane floor as well down here. I'm not sure whether Andy can grab it on the shot. There's a bit of a mess under this car, unfortunately. Now it looks like this could be a much more lengthy pit stop than was originally planned. I'm going to throw it back up to the commentary box and we'll give you any updates as and when we have them for whether this car's going to go back out.
Yeah, thanks Tom. Well, that's live coverage of dramas in the pit lane from Wayne Lost and Paul O'Neill's Audi there. Another story for you to follow up, Tom, is the Alex Wilkinson Hughes car, the Mazda MX-5 that was second in Class B for time. That was very slow into the pit lane a few moments ago, so not sure what the issue with that is. Meanwhile, Paul Simpson's still out there, isn't he, in the lead of the race, Josh?
Yeah, battle developing for what is currently 8th overall, because Jack Collins has been settling personal best laps and has been captured the Darkside Audi. So Jack Collins going very well indeed in that new to the team BMW M2. And we know it's him because we saw him get in the car. The screen doesn't say that, so that's the first blip I think we might have in the system. Just looking out the window to see if that change might have happened. But that car's about to get a penalty. As you see on your screen there, car number 1. It's going quickly, it's been going perhaps a bit too quickly, exceeding track limits for the driver of Jack Collins, who is right on the tail of the hairpin, coming through the final corner now. You look at the top of the shot, you can see the Audi TT is under pressure from the BMW M2 for what is currently 8th position, which might be Dylan Brichter at the wheel of the Audi. We know it's Jack Collins in the BMW. We saw him get in, he looks to the inside, he's flashing his lights, but this is all for position, so there's no way the Audi's going to jump out of the way. Hopping over the curbs, the Beamer hasn't gone through yet. Of course they move up into about number 6. For 8 positions now with the drama for the Paul O'Neill car.
Jonathan Hayes' BMW that was leading Class C earlier has come into the pits again. Now this might be for his second mandatory stop. I think it's his third stop altogether, isn't it? And so hopefully from their point of view this is the one. Up the inside goes the number 1 car, and it looks like we have got that position changed then for what is 8th on the timing screen, and the 7th in fact it will be, won't it? And it's going to be Collins that has gone through now ahead of Dylan Brichter, as we think it is, in the Audi. Just behind them is the number 10 car that's back out into the race of Carmarthen Fenwick, which had problems in the pit lane earlier in the race.
Jack Collins driving very quickly in that BMW, but with that penalty it will overhang the rest of the race really now for the reigning champions. He has got 12 seconds to catch the Nyland Putterkill car. Brichter's pretty aggressive here through traffic up the grass, which was part of the plan really, but he now will slice up the inside of the Audi driven by Giles Hansen. Through the hairpin they go, but now starting to pull away is John Collins in that car. He's already 1.6 seconds ahead of the Audi TT.
Yeah, the 10 car that's involved with him is 11 minutes behind after those early dramas. The thing about what we could see on the inset there was the coolant spill in the pit lane from the Wayne Lawson Paul O'Neill car, which I'm presuming is not back in the race.
Neither of them huge car still into pit lane. Although still second in Class B as it stands, but the only thing I did wonder if it had run out of fuel, because it's limping in slowly. Anyway, we might get more news on that later. Tom Butterworth is back in pit lane.
Yeah, so it wasn't the coolant actually. What happened was as the bonnet came up and the driver was exiting the car, somehow the fire extinguisher is discharged. So it's all over the leg of Paul O'Neill as he was obviously jumping into the car. So it's inside the car, it's all in the bonnet as well. Inside of the car, as a fire extinguisher should do when it goes off. I wonder why it smelled soapy, and that would be why. So that's the interior of the fire extinguisher being discharged. And unfortunately, because of that, that is race done for the 19 Class A Audi TT run by Motion Motorsport. They are now out of this race. Sort of bringing that, okay, real shame for those guys, because we were looking forward to seeing what Paul could do behind the wheel after so long. Yeah, come back up to the guys in the box.
Well, that's unfortunate, isn't it, Josh, to have the extinguisher go off during the pit stop. That's the definition of not a smooth pit stop.
No, that's right. It's a real shame. Currently in the pits is our current leader, Simerson. The battle for what will become the lead. Daniel Irving is slowly being caught by Scott Parkin. The gap's down to 8 seconds. Parkin about half a second quicker on that lap. I think the gap started about 13 seconds, didn't it? So not a big catch from Scott Parkin, but he is slowly but surely closing in on Daniel Irving. On the average lap here, it is about half a second. So Irving's averaging at 1:30.0. Scott Parkin is averaging 1:29.5.
Meanwhile, with Simerson in the pits, that means that it's Jonathan Packer in the Class B Golf that's going to have the overall lead. I don't think that's the first time he's done that in Club Enduro. I'm sure he's done that before, being in the lead overall in a Class B car. But Simerson is in, and that means it's just Packer and Matthew Simonides, I think, that are yet to make their pit stops with pretty much half of the race gone. We're coming up to the 1 hour 15 minutes to go mark in this race.
Yeah, on the other side, Paul Saviani's just taken over from Johnny Hayes, and they've completed all their pit stops. So
yeah,
we'd be expecting some quite different strategies going on. So Paul Saviani's going to be joining something like 5th position, I think, within Class C. There's not to unwind there. Matthew Simonite just 6 seconds ahead of Ethan Simmons. So Simmons is surely going to take the lead in Class C, I think. This, I think, is now Pit Hammond aboard the PDC Honda. I believe we're going to join that car in. So that's another class done, I think.
And a relatively short stint for Kevin Johnston in that case. No, maybe right. It's not going particularly quickly, that car, down the start-finish straight, but it has been having intermittent problems, it has seemed, all the way through the race with the VTEC.
Packer leads by half a second in the race over Daniel Irving, so he might not actually show us the leader on our screens. But he's leading on the road, but he might not ever be on the timing screen by the end of the lap.
No, he's not. He's not. I'm watching them now as they're heading up towards Sunny, and it was Irving that was ahead of Jonathan Packer. So briefly he was in front of them, but Irving in the Master MX-5 has reassumed the lead as we're watching the Jack Collins car come through. It's running in 7th position at the moment.
Matthew Simonite into the pit lane.
So that does just leave Packer. I wonder if he's going to come in this time as well to make it nice and neat. He's heading through the hairpin now. There is the race leader coming through the shot now. It's Daniel Irving, and Packer does stay out for at least one more lap in this race. As we are at the halfway mark, we'll give you a rundown on the order, although we need to note that Packer's not yet stopped, so it is 45. Daniel Irving that's leading. Second place is number 5, that is Jonathan Packer. Third is number 13, Scott Parkin, who will become second, about 7.5 seconds behind the leader Irving when Packer makes stop. Paul Simerson is in the pit, so he's going to drop down the order. He's currently 4th in the number 55 car. 5th is number 23, that's Simon Mason and Chris Byallen. 6th is number 83, Chris Nyland and Will Puskill. 7th is number 1, Oliver Harris and Jack Collins. 8th is number 6, Dylan Victor and Ryan Parkin. 9th is 44, Alfie and Gareth Bale Williams. And 10th is 47, Roberts, Greenwood and Rand. Class B, as we say, it's led by Jonathan Packer, but second in that class is the Mead and Heartland Scirocco now from the Whittaker and Enoch Porsche. Class C is led by Matthew Simonides, who's just come into the pit, so it'll be Ethan Simmons and Andrew Cooper that take over the Class C lead, with Scott Ferguson, Neil Luke up to second in that class, and the remaining car in the top 3 is going to be Hastings Saviani, I think.
Back into the pits to come the PDC Honda, so you said it was slow, and now it's back in the pit lane. Paul Simerson's about to rejoin the race, you can see on the inset there. There's our Class B leader, Jonathan Packer, who's about to lose second in the race to Scott Parkin, who turns his way through the hairpin now. And Parkin's in for a second time, so Scott Parkin from third position. He was catching Daniel Irving for the lead. He is in to make his second and final pit stop. Presumably they think the car can do an hour and 12 minutes. For an hour and 9 minutes, they're going to go back out on a tank of fuel. So the strategy continues to unwind as this race continues. But there's Jonathan Packer. It's been a dominant drive so far for him in Class B. He finished third within Class C in the Championship 4 years ago for the Carpenter from Surrey, the former Caterham racer, former Jedi racer, race winner in Europe in the Lotus Cup as well. Here he comes down towards Tower Bend in that Volkswagen Golf GTI. And accelerates up towards the Jim Clark S's. He's currently leading the class by about 3 laps, but of course he hasn't pitted yet.
No, absolutely, man. You lose but just over 2 laps in the pits, so but he's still got a very healthy lead in that class.
Slow pit stop for Paul Simmons at 5 minutes. So they lost about a minute and a half in all of that. So he said Simonson will go down the order, probably a bit further than he was expecting. He might drop outside the top 10. He has dropped outside the top 10, hasn't he, in the game?
I think he said he was a bit worried about doing the whole race solo. He just needed a bit of a rest.
What did he say?
There is the fueling going on the Scott Parkin number 13 car on the inset. So it's not going to be too much longer before he's back out into the race. Of course, he's going to be the first of the front runners to have made both of his stops. And be interested to see where that leaves him. It doesn't mean that he's going to have a run of over an hour to the checkered flag with no more fuel. That's not unusual on a stint of more than an hour. Of course, in Club Enduro Tower races often will have pit stops with more than an hour and 10 minutes to go. Should be well within the car's capabilities.
Oliver Harris is continuing to catch the Chris Nyland with the Puttigill Audi, 9 seconds behind now. Jack Collins, of course, at the wheel now with that BMW M2. Good stint from Jack here, which perhaps you might expect, because he was very successful in British GT last year. He did a race similar BMW really in the British GT Championship this year. He's racing an M4 with Brandon Templeton in the British GT Championship, which starts in a couple of weeks' time. So it's the reigning Club Enduro champion. That's a nice progression, isn't it, into the top GT Championship in the country. So here today at Croft, Tom Butterworth is in the pit lane, and he has more news.
It was just to kind of bring you how calm the pit stop has been so far. Genuinely quite laughable. The fuel went in was completed with 2 minutes to go, and there was a mechanic that stood outside the car who was actually kind of telling him that he can calm down. It's fine, we're good. They've changed the front tyres over, retorquing them now. You can actually see the squash of the front tyres as to how low the tyre pressures are being run. But fresh new fronts on that, so kept the same rears on, all retorqued up and ready to go. Sweet at the back of that as well, but they even had time to polish it up. Lovely. And here at Darkside, back up to the boys in the office.
Thank you, Tom.
So that was a 7-second slower pit stop on the first one for Parkins. So that tyre change just cost them a little bit of time, but can you make them 7 seconds up on new front tyres? Probably so. So worth doing. So that was 3 minutes 34 for Scott Parkin, and now he will push on those new tyres. But a heavy fuel tank, of course, with all that diesel that was going in to the Audi, and a solo drive, you'll remember. But he's done this a few times now, hasn't he?
Yeah. And of course, assuming there's no safety car, and there's still another 40 odd laps to go in this race. They've done 52 laps now, the race leaders. So 45 laps probably still to go in this race, something like that, with an hour and 8 minutes still to go. So yeah, 7 seconds over that number of laps it's not a huge amount, is it? There's the Hazel Subiani, it's now the Paul Subiani BMW, isn't it? The 59-year-old hotelier from Shrewsbury. Started racing 8 years ago. And now in that new BMW for this year, we've got a 10-second track limit penalty now for the Harrison Collins car to add to the 5 seconds that it already had. So it's being driven quickly, but maybe a little bit too exuberant at some of the corners, Josh.
Indeed so. He's not the only one to do this weekend. Lance Stroll, making his GT3 debut, had 110 seconds of track limit penalties, I read earlier on, which wasn't as bad when his co-drivers who picked up 6 30-second penalties. So it's not how you win races. But that is partly a bit tight, isn't it, for the other Darkside car. But yeah, it's not great, is it, for Jack Collins? He's got lots of pace in that car. He's at 1:28.9. Just over a second, they're not quicker than Oliver Harris managed in the car. He's averaging a 29.8, which is almost identical to our race leader Daniel Irving, but the track limit penalties sort of cost you all the time that you're gaining by going quickly.
Well, probably then a bit more really with now 15 seconds that they've mounted up to.
We've not really seen much of that this weekend, have we?
Not a huge amount, but I think it's not one of those circuits where track limits is traditionally quite a bigger deal as it is at some tracks around the country.
Of course, the tyre stacks are in this weekend, aren't they? Which they weren't, for example, the British Touring Car Championship last year, which then track limits was a different storyline than what we've had this weekend.
That's right.
So how's Saviani getting on there? He's up to 3rd, isn't he, in Class C? So he's done a 1:36.3. Best lap of the car. A little bit quicker than that. They're pretty similar, aren't they? Only about 6 tenths difference between Hayes and Saviani's best. So it's a good equal lineup, really, isn't it? In that squad, in their BMW. Got a couple of cars that's about to lap them. That should be nicely done. 4 seconds is the gap now between Nyland and Collins for what is 4th, down to 3 seconds, another second caught. So that's soon going to be a battle on the road, isn't it, for what is 3rd within Class A.
Yes, but sadly not a battle for position in the classification with those penalties. Into the pits has come the number 10 car of Rob Fennick and Ricky Carlard. Is that its first official stop? No, yes, I think it is, yeah. It made a stop, of course, before the pit window, which was lengthy and cost them about 10 laps. The leader's back in again. So this is Daniel Irving into the pits, or the former leader.
That was a slow in lap in. That was 10 seconds slower than it should have been, the in lap. So maybe a problem with the Mazda.
Yeah, and the team don't look like they're ready for him. They're popping the bonnet off. Alan Henderson's not got his helmet on. He's wiggling the left rear wheel of that car. They've got the bonnet up as well.
The traditional problem with this car's been drive shaft, hasn't it? So whether that's the problem again.
Alan Henderson's got his head touching the tarmac, trying to have a look underneath to see what's going on, but this is not boding well for the race leader.
I think the person under the bonnet is his road sports teammate, isn't it? Dan Jude,
yeah.
I think. So it's a very small team running this MX-5, but wherever this car that's done so well in this race, hasn't it? It's led from the beginning, it's led 55 laps of this race, but this just seemed to be a much more significant issue than it might otherwise have been. Meanwhile, on the screen, you're not seeing this because you're seeing the pit stop for Rob Fennick, but the much bigger drama down there in pit lane is our end of the pits, because the race-leading car might here be going into retirement unless it's an easier fix than it otherwise would be.
Yeah, they're losing time here, of course.
Jonathan Packer is going to lead, isn't he?
He is. I think you're probably right with all of that. Meanwhile, that's the Fennick and Collard, who's going to be getting into...
Fennick's taking his helmet off, but Ricky Collard's not got any helmet on. So.
Well, so maybe that's a retirement as well, possibly. That car was getting pretty quickly, actually. There was a number of laps behind.
Now, on your screen, you're seeing the Chris Nyland car nearly now being caught by Jack Collins. He's flashing his lights in the BMW M2. He's got a TCR Cupra to lap. But the battle is probably going to become a second in this race, isn't it, between the Audi and the BMW, the Chris Nyland, William Pattigill car. They're being caught by the Oliver Harris and Jack Collins machine. And
Jonathan Packer does now lead the race on the timing screen as well. So Class B leader, he's still not yet made his first stop, let alone his second. and he does now lead the race overall as well. He's leading by 19 seconds from the team that has made one stop, which is Simon Mason and Chris Byallen in the Seat. So they've already made one of their stops. And then third is Nyland and Putskill. They are about 13 seconds behind Mason and Byallen.
Yeah, that's right, just getting through the traffic. So the Audi's RS3's done a good job here. The Cantor Holland liveried machine. There's a bit of daylight between himself and Jack Collins.
Into the pits comes the number 6 car as well of Ryan Parkin and Dylan Brick. So that's the second of the Darkside cars making its second stop. So we think that's Dylan still in that car, don't we? So probably going to be Ryan that's taking over at this pit stop.
Yeah, meanwhile the Mazda pit stop, not too much is happening, is there?
No, and yeah, helmet off as well now for Daniel Irving, as well as Alan Henderson, and I think that signifies the end of the race for the car that led for the first hour and 25 minutes of the 2.5 hour race for the Takiwa Club Enduro Championship. Great shame that that car is out of it. We'll see if Tom's able to pop up to that end of the pit lane and figure out exactly what went on with them.
It was a great effort. Oh, and Packer's slowing.
Oh, has he left it too late? He's crawling round. Has he run out of fuel, do we think? He's just running on fumes to get it back to the pit lane?
Shaking the car around, isn't he? Why would you do this?
I don't know. When you've got such a comfortable lead in your class, why not make the stop a little bit earlier than that? I'm presuming that is what is the issue, but he's struggling even to get into the pit lane at the moment, and this is costing him time. Now he did have some time in hand.
3-lap lead over Stuart Mead, but is he going to even make it down to pit lane?
He needs some help. He needs some help to be pushed, I think, down the pit lane, but there's no one there to... now he's picking up speed. So maybe it's not a fuel issue.
Got a reserve that they can go to. But fuel issue would probably be the better scenario. If there's a car issue, it's a bigger problem, isn't it?
And he's pulled in right next to the car that's just retired from the race as well. So Jonathan Packer, second race leader, to pull in right beneath us in somewhat dramatic circumstances. They are getting some more fuel into the car in this case, Josh.
Yeah, so it does feel like she found something in the reserve tank that they could just get the car home in. No panic, but then I suppose you would put fuel in first anyway, wouldn't you? And then see if the problems is. You see on your screen in the background, the erstwhile race leader, Daniel Irving and Alan Henderson pushing the Mazda MX-5 into the garage. The Class B leader, well, they were the leader really when they had this problem, the car slowing on the circuit. Jonathan Packer, solo driver, standing into the right-hand side of the car. There's no panic at this stage from the team, but they're putting the fuel in first. Jonathan Packer saying about getting back in the car here, so perhaps it was all a fuel issue. It really makes you wonder why they didn't pit earlier. Seems rather unnecessary, really, doesn't it, to go so long.
And a problem for number 44, that's the car of Alok Iyengar and Ben Williams. That's got some damage, I think, by the looks of it.
And in behind them is an Island Putskill car to make their second and final mandatory stop. So it's all going on down in pit lane.
Yeah, the Iyengar car stopped again right beneath us. All the action happening at our end of the pit lane at the moment. Alok Iyengar, Ben Williams. Who do we think's in that car at the moment? 44.
Ben Williams is what we're calling him.
So he's in the pits with a bit of drama. I don't know if there's some contact there. It was been reported as smoking heavily, but we could see that as it came into the pit lane.
The front right corner's collapsed, hasn't it?
Yeah.
There's no signs of a contact, is there?
No.
It might just be a failure.
Looks that way.
Stuart Mead, who's second in Class B, has just set a personal best lap time, sort of urged on perhaps by the Jonathan Packer issues. 1:33.058 for Stuart Mead, a good lap in that Sirocco.
I can see the team getting ready to push Jonathan Packer back out into the race, so I think the main drama will be that he's lost time on the end lap there.
That's right.
See exactly if we can figure out how long his stop was, but of course he was going slow before we got into the pit lane, wasn't
then he sort of sped up, didn't he, at the pit end.
Yeah.
I can tell you how slow the last lap. Yeah, the last lap he lost about 45 seconds, so that's the time he lost, really.
So we can add that to the sort of excess time in the pit stop to work out how much he's lost, but it could be a minute or something like that, as the Houghton Osman BMW, which I don't think we've mentioned or race, comes into the pit lane. It often seems to be the case that we don't mention that team, which is probably a sign that they're doing something right and just keeping quiet and
Like having the oldest car on the grid.
yeah, absolutely. Where are they running? They're running in 18th position overall and 5th in Class B, and they're now making their second stop.
That car seems to fluctuate between classes B and C a little bit as well,
Yes.
doesn't it? So they're back into B, running perhaps slightly higher power band this weekend.
Leader at the moment is the number 23 car, isn't it? Simon Mason and Chris Byallen in the Seat Cupra.
There might be a drama, yeah, there is a drama going on the other end of the pit lane, because the Dylan Brick to Ryan parking car has been in the pit for 5 minutes.
Has, yes, I can see it there now. And it's not parked at 45 degrees either.
It's on our screens, there's a mechanic in the bonnet, or underneath where the bonnet would be. They've taken it off, his Packer goes back out.
Okay, so let's see how long that stop was. Josh is just
3:31, so as quick as everyone out. So I think all the time was lost was before they got to the pit in, so
Yeah.
45 seconds or so, and Packer still lead Class B. Yes, he does. So he's kept the class lead, but an unnecessary drama they didn't really need to have if that was all to do with fuel.
That's right. So you can see that Ben Williams is certainly not in the number 44 car down here. That's the car which has had some collapsed suspension or something by the looks of it. That race may well be over for that team with less than an hour of the race left to go.
Simon Mason, Chris Byallen car leads the race now on the road by about 11 seconds over Jack Collins. News down in the pit lane from Trevor Gregory that the car, the right parking car, just wouldn't restart. They tried bumping it, that's why it's no longer at 45-degree angle, but they had no choice. So thanks, Trevor, for the news. Bad luck for Ryan Parkin and Co.
not a Wolfman's kid. He's got more pit lane.
Just to give you a brief update on what was happening with the Rob Fennick and Ricky Collard car. That has obviously retired now, so it's retired because Rob was in it and he said the engine just wasn't pulling through. It seemed down the power, it wasn't pulling through the rev range as it should. So it's a retirement more to save. I think it's probably the best way of putting it before it went bang properly. So they've retired that. And I'll speak to the 45 guys, the MX5 that was leading the race earlier on as well. Unfortunately, that one has now been fully retired as well. Maybe that was an issue if housing started to move around and release itself from its fixed position. And that has caused that one into retirement. So a real race of attrition here. As the guys have been saying upstairs, it's the longest race of the season. So yeah, really is causing some issues for guys, and it's going to be whoever lasts the longest, I think. So any further updates, and we'll let you know. It looks like there's a few more pit stops still to take place. Yeah, any further, as and when they happen, guys. Back up to Ian and Josh.
Thank you very much, Tom. So, diff housing the issue for the race leading car, as it was for more than half of the scheduled race distance. Alan Henderson and Daniel Irving, who do have the best lap of the race, a 1:27.360. That's pretty scant consolation, really. And not lap record, that's with John Osmick, 1:26.73, set a couple of years ago this month.
The Chris by Allen cars will set a personal best, 1:28.2, about 50 seconds behind Scott Parkins. So Parkins over a lap ahead. And, looking strong up front, lapping consistently, 1:28. By Allen's car, 12 seconds ahead of William Puttergill, so that is fairly close for a possible podium position.
The 37 is in for its final stop, so I think it was Neil Luke that had taken that car over. Well, the BMW Z4, so it was Daniel Douglas, I think, getting into it, right from Henfield for the final stint. How are they faring? They are 14th overall, they're second in Class C, although they will fall behind Paul Sabiani and Johnny Hayes, won't they, in their BMW as a result of that stop.
Yeah.
And also the 41 car is in, that's from the lead of Class C, so that's going to be Ethan Simmons now to hand over to Andrew Cooper.
Yes, so that would be significant where that comes out in comparison to Sabiani. They have that delay of about a minute, so the Honda should be ahead if it's a good pit stop. And then we'll see if Andrew Cooper's pace to hang on. Well, that's been a trying weekend for that team up until this point.
There's Jonathan Packer, who saw him going over the line, still in the lead of Class B, but he's got to make another pit stop, of course, during the course of the race.
So it's his main rivals, really, haven't they? They're now on a similar strategy. There's about a minute back to Stuart Mead and Tim Martin, 12
the Whittaker Enot, third place in Class B Porsche. That's just been passed by Will Pottergill in the number 83 Canter Holland Asset Management Audi. Car that is running in 7th place on the timing screen at the moment.
Not that far behind them by Alan Mason Cooper, 13 seconds between the two of them. That's pretty tight at this point. Just behind them on the road was the car third in Class B, the Whittaker Mark Enot Cayman. They're the best part of the lap back from the Sirocco. Another Cayman, that's called Simerson, in third overall, catching the Robert Greenwood Cooper, 7 seconds up the road. These are cars that haven't made their second pit stop yet.
Yes, Simerson in that Porsche, turning his way through Tower Corner, up towards the flick flack at the Jim Clark S's. up to Sonny, the right-hander. 44 minutes of the race left to go. It's the final third. If there's any more drops coming in the form of any more retirements that we might see. It's affected the Class A cars particularly badly, the reliability it seems. Quite a few of those now have retired from the race.
You said we haven't mentioned the Jody House car very much. Let's do that because House has been going quicker and quicker in that E30, doing personal best lap after personal best lap. It started about 5 minutes ago. He did a 1:37.1, then he did a 37.0, 36.8, and he's just done a 1:36.0, 8 tenths quicker than any previous lap in that car. So Jody House in the E30 M3, fifth in Class B. Has made his 2 pit stops, I think. Yes, that's going to come up the order yet. And Jody House, another experienced endurance driver in all of that car, the former class podium finisher in 24 hours. He is going very quickly indeed in that car, the oldest car on the grid. He might make up more positions as others make their final position.
Car second in Class B is in, that's Stuart Mead and Tim Hartland's Volkswagen Scirocco, as also is the Daniel Gibson John Dundee Gillette G40. That's for its second scheduled stop. I think it did have an extra stop in the middle of the race, didn't it, as well? But Mead and Hartland, second in Class B, is a more significant stop.
The Ethan Simmons Andrew Cooper car ought to be going by now, and I don't think it is.
It is just being pushed back now. And it's rejoining the race just as you say that. But
BMW's coming up to the final corner, so I think this is the race on the road for Class C. I think this will put them on the same lap, and Paul Saviani isn't going to be very far behind because of this slower pit stop for Ethan Simmons and Andrew Cooper.
Yeah, so Simmons and Cooper, as it now is, they're just turning into Clervaux, so it's probably half the length of the start and finish straight between them. Which is less than it otherwise might be if you've got the stats on the pit time.
Over 4 minutes, 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Probably lost about 35 seconds. The earlier pit stop they lost about 20 seconds. So that kind of adds up to 50 seconds, doesn't it? We know the other car lost a minute with the extra pit stop, so that probably is about the 10 seconds that's between them.
Yeah, more or less, I would say. That's about right. And they've been pretty evenly matched when they were before the pit stop started. So it's no surprise to see them this close as a result of both having lost similar times in pit stops.
They're just behind on the road. Jody House has done another quicker lap in the E30, a 1:35.371. But yeah, they're both in the same shot now, aren't they, the Class C leaders? So they've had very different strategies. They've merged together now with Andrew Cooper being chased down by Paul Saviani, and that is the closest class battle we have for a victory over the last 40 minutes.
There is the House BMW, the E30. It's looking absolutely magnificent, and it's just ahead of Andrew Cooper in that Honda Civic Type R. There's the car that's second in that class, the yellow BMW. They're just being overtaken by Paul Simpson in the number 55 car.
He's about to catch the second car for second overall because Rob Greenwood's just ahead of him, so just ahead of the BMW. He's about for second overall on the road. Yet to pit, but that position probably is going to change pretty soon.
As into the pits come Stephen Moore and Charles Hanson, the number 73 Audi TT.
Class C lead gap is 5 seconds. Cooper to Saviani. That's the chase gap for Paul Saviani, the driver from Shropshire, to try and achieve.
Yeah, so the 171 car making its way through. So Osmond and Jody House, the two drivers from Kent.
And Simerson's got second, hasn't he, from the Cupra, which would happen. So how quickly can the BMW catch the Honda? I wonder if it can catch at all.
Yeah.
Oh, Packer's slow again. Jonathan Packer, the Class B leader, is slow again, I think.
Now, is this a recurrence of the issue that he had previously?
Look at the pits. Look at the speed, didn't it? It's going quicker than it did earlier when it crawled.
Yeah.
Back.
We'll have a look at the lap time as it comes through. What was his last lap time? It was a 1:32. That's actually one of his quickest laps, only 3/10 off his personal best on the last time through.
It looked slow because he had a TCR car around him. Come on, wondering.
Maybe. It can sometimes be deceptive, can't it? We'll have a look at his lap time next time through.
He's coming in, so that adds up.
And he is limping in, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, not as much as he was in the first stop, but
yeah, it's 20 seconds off that lap than it should have been, so it was a slow lap. We weren't being deceived. The Class B leader in dramas in the pit lane, fuel going in, or about to go in, but surely that's not the problem this time.
no,
Maybe it wasn't the problem before.
No, obviously they've got to wait for the driver to get out before they can put the fuel in as well.
2.8 seconds a gap in Class C, so Paul Saviani was a couple of seconds quicker than Andrew Cooper. So it's the Honda Civic Type R car 41. Andrew Cooper, just at the back of your shot, who is about to be caught for the class lead with less than 40 minutes to go.
Yeah, so we'll see if we can pick these two up. There is Cooper, and there is Saviani making their way down towards the tower bend. Here is Cooper. So yeah, pretty much halved, didn't it? The gap very nearly halved on the previous lap. So if Saviani can do that again, we'll have the Class C leaders together. Drama in Class B as well. We'll keep an eye on what's going on with Jonathan Packett down there in the pit lane as well. He's had a very comfortable race out on his own in front of the class, but some dramas affect him as the race has gone on. Possibly in terms of reliability, so we can find out what might be happening with that car in a moment. We're continuing to watch Andrew Cooper in the Class C leading Honda Civic Type R at the moment, heading down into the complex with 38 minutes of the race to go. I'm not sure that Saviani's made the ground on this lap that he did on the previous one.
Might be Andrew Cooper just settling into things, isn't it, in his first laps of the day.
Yeah, possibly so. We'll put them up to the line again, having a look at the timing screen as they go through. The gap between them, that time is 2.3, so it did come down because, to be honest, just at the best lap of the race for that car, a 1:35.390.
Yeah, so Cooper did a pretty good lap in himself, as you can see, but it's not as good as the BMW behind. So an intriguing battle in Class C, continuing to develop. Looking back in the pits for 2 minutes, so no dramas yet. There's no particular work going on down there in pit lane, so it's a bit odd, isn't it, what's going on with that Golf. It is allowing the Sirocco to catch all the time in the hands of Tim Hartland.
Certainly giving us something to talk about, isn't it, as far as the Class B lead battle is concerned. There's Cooper heading into the Jim Clark. I think that Saviani is continuing to close that gap, though, as they go through the chicane this time, or the S's, and on up to Sunny, where they've got a slower car ahead of them in the form of the Gibson and Dundee Ginetta, which is in the same class but is running a bit further down. It's being lapped again by Andrew Cooper, and now by Paul Saviani as well, who's coming into the complex. The car ahead of them is the House BMW M3 E30, or BMW E30 I should say, into the pits comes the number 47 car from third position. That's the Robert Rand Seat Cooper TCR.
Leaders pretty much nose to tail, and Andrew Cooper's a bit slow out of the hairpin. They're side by side now, up across the line in the Class C lead, round the outside. Not quite sure what went wrong there for Andrew Cooper, but the car didn't have the straight line speed it should have had. And Paul Saviani then in the BMW takes the lead of Class. He then crossed the line 19 thousandths of a second apart after 65 laps of racing, and a fastest lap of the class from Saviani that time, 1:34.7, and he's all okay with the Honda because Andrew Cooper's car was significantly slower in a straight line. He seems to be back up to speed now.
Well, that was Saviani going 6 tenths faster than he had on the previous lap, which was also a personal best, so he's finding some really impressive pace in that BMW now, a 1:34.791, and yeah, fastest lap of the day for that class. Simmons had done a 1:35.9, so 1.2 seconds faster than that. We can go down to Tom Budgeworth in the pit. He's got more news for us.
Just get on the Class B shot. It was indeed run out of fuel earlier on in the race. It's not that time around, and everything normal, and they were out in good time as well. So no major dramas that time around. But yes, indeed, earlier on it was.
Thanks, Tom. 34.5 minutes of the race left to go. Watching the 297 car come through. That is the Jan Whittaker and Mark Enoch Porsche Cayman, and there on the screen briefly was the Class C lead battle, where Andrew Cooper's not really let the new leader Paul Saviani get away. They've got Scott Parkin coming through as well. He's the de facto leader of the race. He's not actually the leader of the race because there's still 2 cars ahead of him that need to make their second stops, but Scott Parkin it is who's got this race under control at the moment. He's currently separating the 2 Class C leaders, Josh.
Yeah, now Saviani got through. He went 2 seconds slower than he did on the previous lap. So it sort of fluctuates a bit, I think, in the pace of those cars, doesn't it? So Andrew Cooper, as he gets back into the groove, might be able to do something about the drive ahead. I think Andrew's had a win in this car before, has he? So he will be keen to try and achieve that. Just been lapped by Scott Parkin, I think you said. His lead over Chris by Allen, by the way, is 53 seconds. I think he's going out very fractionally. As, after 27 minutes in the pits, Brian Parkin has got back into the race.
No, that's good news. That is good news. No, I don't think Andrew Cooper hasn't won anything, has he? As yet, so if we get a class win here, he'd be pleased with that. But bit of work to do if that is going to be the case. We'll get back ahead of that yellow BMW.
Good battle in Class C, this hasn't it? It's been race long. As you can see, the car that had that broken suspension seemingly earlier is going to be wheeled into the garage and down to the race. See you, Cupra.
It'll be interesting to get a shot of the race leading, or the potentially race leading car Scott Parkin again. I'm hearing reports of a loose bonnet, but we'll see if we can spot anything that looks untoward on the stream in a moment.
A little bit of a slower lap, perhaps it should have been. How about this from Andrew Cooper? He's right on the tail again of Paul Saviani for Class C. So he's urged on by this opportunity. He's not the first person this weekend, is he? To try and grab a first win in motor racing. Through Tower Bend they go then, and Andrew Cooper brought the gap back down to 7 tenths of a second. Might be slightly closer than that now. Down towards the S's they come. And proving you can go endurance racing on a budget and have a great battle out there and be battling for a race victory in the Tiguan Club Enduro Championship, the UK's leading club level endurance category. And it is a great dice we have here for Class C between the BMW driven by Paul Saviani, shared with Jonathan Hayes, Andrew Cooper aboard the Honda Civic Type R that Ethan Simmons started, and this could well go on for the next half an hour. It
could do. Of course, Hayes and Saviani, they have had class wins before. They had a couple of class wins last year in a different car, as Cooper's up the inside of the BMW into the hairpin. Gets into the side of the BMW, does he there? Look for damage on that car as it comes past. No, I can't see any. It looks like they've avoided contact, but it is Cooper that's gone back through into the Class C lead, and that might not be the last swap that we have.
I don't think it will be. And back to the inside comes the Beamer. That got a bit tight, didn't it? But Andrew Cooper, who had raced the Type R trophy, hasn't he? We know the guys there aren't quite getting their elbows out. So he was keen to do similar, and he's back ahead of Paul Saviani. But the BMW is going to try and fight back in a straight line. Actually, the Honda's pretty good, isn't it? Good through on the aero without any rear wing like the BMW's got. But that car might be good on the brakes. He dives down the inside of Paul Saviani. It's like a Formula Ford race, as it turned out on this particular lap of the very lead. Jonathan Packer, the Class B leader, must be wondering, well, we want to get past this quite safely. Hope they've got enough fuel aboard.
Yeah, you'd hope so. After the earlier dramas, they go through the Jim Clark S's, and yes, I mean, Packer is he going to disrupt this battle? Is he going to split them up? He's still behind the two of them. He's not ventured a move just yet. When's he going to pick to do that? As I say, he's pretty mindful of the fact that these two are battling, and he doesn't want to get involved in their scrap. Down towards the complex they go once again. Here they come. Packer has now got himself between the two cars. Let's hope not for too long. A bit of a mistake there though. Always getting into the back of the car. Andrew Cooper's got back in front briefly, and Packer resumes his position. That might end up costing Andrew Cooper a little bit of time if he's not careful though. Over the line they come, and the Class C leaders separated by the Class B leader.
Yeah, I don't think really that was Andrew Cooper's fault, was it? Because it was Packer that seemed to make the mistake. he's been very cautious, isn't he, Papa, about getting past these cars. And this time it's Saviani that's been held up, and Andrew Cooper back underneath the rear wing of the BMW 3 Series. They turn their way through Hawthorne Bend and up towards the chicane. So this is absolutely on a game between these two. We've seen both of them are pretty keen at outbreaking each other. There's a lap and go down here where Paul Saviani dived down the inside of Andrew Cooper. Can Cooper replicate that move in the Honda? It doesn't look like he's going for it. So, they're very late on the brake. The car twitches as he comes into Tower Bend. Paul Saviani sliding around, but he is still ahead of Andrew Cooper as they head down towards Jim Clark Essex for another lap.
Yeah, great race between these two. Packer's now cleared them and gone away. He is the thick end of a lap clear of the second place car in that class, which is the Stuart Mead and Tim Hartland car. But for the moment, stick with the Class C leaders. The yellow BMW of Paul Saviani, the grey and purple Honda of Andrew Cooper. 9/10 between them at the start of the lap. And might well be something similar as they get towards the end of this lap. There goes Packer, and here comes the Class C lead strap into the right-hand element of the complex. You see Joe Williams in the pit lane for, I think, his second scheduled stop there, the driver from Hereford. Two Class C leads nose to tail as they go through the hairpin. They come out line astern. Can Cooper do anything about it? Well, he's going to struggle here because they've got the Brandon Greenwood Cooper coming to the left of the... Oh, and he's had to chink to the right-hand side of the circuit. It was Hayes and Saviani. Saviani just moved across to the left-hand side of the circuit.
Yeah, and going to try and get alongside the BMW there, but Saviani, I think, knows that wouldn't really help his race terribly much, so he wants to stay ahead through Hawthorne. It's not just about managing the traffic as a faster competitor, it's a different challenge, but an important challenge as a lower class car as well, about making sure those faster cars pass where you want them to rather than where that they perhaps want to, and that might just help Paul Saviani by a tenth or two, which at this point of the race is quite important.
It certainly is. So those cars are working, in their case, their 71st laps. The race leaders have completed 79 laps and are actually in the pits.
Yeah, Jack Collins on the lap before his in-lap set his best lap of the race, 1:28.9. So that car could well come out in second after the pit stop, I think. Is that going to be... Yeah, it looks like Jack's going to get back in the car potentially again. He's helping with the pit stop at the moment, I think. But he's very rapid in that BMW M2 that he shares with Oliver Harris. Let's see who gets into the car. In fact, Oliver Harris is going to get back in, is he, for the final? He is. So that's the car that we would have a few question marks who was in when. It looks like Oliver Harris is going to get in for the end stint. That's on the inset, the Class C League battle on the main picture.
Certainly is, with 26.5 minutes of the race left to go. Up and over the line comes Paul Saviani, number 66, and number 41, Andrew Cooper, to complete another lap. Down towards Clervaux corner they go. Gap lengthening, if anything, down the straight. As they turn into Clervaux corner, Cooper, the lawyer from Bury St Edmunds, chasing after the Shropshire Hotelier, who lists Alston Park, his local track, is his favourite. Cooper, who started racing in Formula V, says done Type R Trophy as well, now starting to dabble with some of the longer distance races, including Enduro here. Not in the car was slated to be in this weekend because there was a problem for the Canetta on Friday.
So we're hearing that it's actually Ethan Simmons that's in the car at the moment, so Andrew Cooper must be in the middle third. A little bit confusing who's in the cars when, so it's Ethan Simmons, we believe, in the Honda, who's doing battle with what could be Paul Saviani.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got 25 minutes of the race left to go. There is the number one car. I think that's about to head back out into the race. But just looking to see where Scott Park is, because he should shortly be sort of taking the lead of the race.
He's done that already, I think.
It's not come through, so it's not officially on the timing screen, done it yet? But he will have done. That's when he actually appears on the top of the timing screens.
We'll be interested to see if the Mason by Alan Cooper is ahead of the BM2. I think it might well be. So looks like the Chris by Alan Simon Mason car will go through to take second place, won't it? Yeah, across the line now. And podium could be on because Oliver Harrison's moving down there. Across the line comes the Chris Nile and William Pushkill car. So it's been pretty tight for third, isn't it? Up towards Clairvaux, the BMW still getting up to speed. I think the Audi's just going to sneak through. So battle could be on for third position there, but it is the Audi RS3 up into third. And of course that penalty overhangs the BMW.
Simmons and Skoda are side by side down the back straight into Tower Corner. It's Simmons in the 41 car, who was shared a drive last season with Sam Dennis, didn't he, in Club Enduro. Narrowly failed to get back ahead of Subiani through Tower, but that was all very close down the back stretch for the Class C lead battle. Through the right-hander at Croft, fast flat right-hander, and then into the double apex right-hander at Sunny, and a bit more speed carried out of the corner by the 41 car of Ethan Simmons there.
There wasn't much separating them there, was there? They're headed down to the complex, just a few millimetres. The rear bumper of the BMW, the front of the Honda that tries to draw up alongside through the complex, but can't go through yet. Up towards the hairpin. This is quite some dice, isn't it? After over 2 hours of racing, and just nothing to separate these two cars. Both had their problems really, haven't they? The Honda had the longer pit stops, the BMW had the extra unscheduled stop. We didn't get to the bottom of what that was, but it was a short stop, which was handy, and it merged them back together. See in the background, Ryan Parker Downey's back in the pits, isn't it? So that's lots of good news for that squad. The Class C leaders through Hawthorne Bend here. They're going to have a couple of TCR Coopers about to lap them, including the second place car of Simon Mason and Chris Byallen, who is being caught by the Will Puskell Chris Nyland car. Just 11 seconds between them now.
Yeah, Scott Pocket now does hit the top of the driving screens though. He's leading after 80 laps by 54 seconds, nearly 55 seconds from Chris Byallen. Second place is 13 from the 23. 83 9 and Puskell car is in third place. Fourth is the number 1 car of Harrison Collins. Fifth is 47 Greenwood and Rand in the Sand. Sixth is Joe Williams in the number 88 car. Seventh Paul Simmons in the 55 Porsche. Eighth, but with a penalty, 5 second penalty for track limits, is the Fothergill and Ellsworth Porsche. Ninth is the 5 car Class B leader Jonathan Packett ahead of Mead and Hartland by still around about a lap, I think that is. Yes, there's Mead and Hartland just go across the line once again. Class C still being disputed here, Josh.
It is. I think it will do throughout, through into the complex. Honda's a bit tighter. Tripods through the corners, the inside unloaded rear wheel lifts off the ground in traditional front-wheel drive fashion. Up towards the hairpin they go. Slightly different lines utilised by the two drivers. The Paul Tabiani and Johnny Hayes BMW 3 Series continues to lead over the Type R EP3. The Andrew Cooper owned car, driven by Ethan Simmons. One of their class rivals, Max Simino, completes his final stop of the race and comes out of pit lane just behind them a few laps back. Still the BMW ahead by the smallest of margins.
That's everyone now probably has done their 2 stops, I think, which is good news because the pit window closes in 6 minutes' time. We've got 20 cars still competing here.
Simpson's going very quickly. He's just on a personal best in his Cayman at 1:28.5. He's 18 seconds behind Joe Williams, going a lot quicker on that previous lap.
Chris is also just a personal best lap as well in his BMW 3 Series, a 1:39.5 for him.
As has Pip Hammond, he's on a 1:37.8. They've got that FN2 running better again.
That's good to see.
Running 6th within the class.
One into the pits here is the Fothergill and Ellsworth car. Now this is a scheduled stop, is it? Because they've
that's a car that did just get a track limit penalty, but that shouldn't cause the car to come into the pits. The car that's running in 8th place.
Well, it's kind of stopped, not at 45 degrees like it's, why am I here? Have I been called in? Maybe there's been a misinterpretation of the black and white flag and the penalty board that would have been shown.
Ethan Simmons locks up into the hairpin, almost goes into the back of the BMW again. That was while the Chris Nyland and the William Puskell third place car was lapping them. Ethan thought that might be his opportunity. He was all locked up, he just avoided the back of the BMW. They've come close there once already in this race. The BMW 3 Series still in front.
Okay, well the Fothergill and Ellsworth car is still in pit lane. But the Class C lead battle rages on him to get a little bit close there up at the hairpin on the that lap. much than 20 minutes of the race to go, Josh.
Paul Simmonson's just on another personal best. He's 2.5 seconds quicker than Joe Williams ahead of him. And the gap's down to 15 seconds. Now we're just getting notification that William Pusky was not in the RS3 at the moment. He did the middle stint. Chris Nyland is currently at the wheel of that one, and only 6.7 seconds ahead of Oliver Harris.
Okay. So it's a little bit of a mystery who is in the car at any point in time in these two mandatory pit stop races. Sometimes a slightly better chance when there's only one pit stop.
And we've got TSL are doing this at the moment, so they're getting information from downstairs. The same thing's happened with Byalon and Mason. So Byalon did the middle stint, Simon Mason has got back in, who started the car, so he's in the second place car. We were talking about Pip Hammond's pace, the car's back into the pit again.
It is for the 7th time, I think that is now. It might be going for double figures here. Oh, and that's the second place in Class B car that's been off at Clervaux. That's the full tick-off Stuart Mead and Tim Hartland, the Scirocco, which was about a lap behind the Class B leader, but now they'll have to rather have avoided that trip through the gravel trap. Beautiful evening now here at Croft, the low sun causing a few visibility issues in the combo.
Paul Simonson is significantly faster than anybody else at this stage of the race. He's done 3 laps now in the 128. He was the one that was worried about his fatigue as the race went on. So on our screen, I think Jonathan Pack has just put a lap, hasn't he, on the Tim Hartland Scirocco.
Yeah, probably not helped by it going off at Clervaux.
How far could have been ahead without its fueling dramas?
Yeah, it would have been quite considerably ahead, wouldn't it? Been a couple of laps ahead nearly.
But of course, it's like the MX-5 of Alec Wilson Hughes come into issues. That could have been a different story, those problems that car has had in this race.
Yeah.
We can't really, unfortunately, make it doing things like that when it's not really a necessary drama to have.
No. Of course, it's the first of 6 rounds of the championship this season. And it's the best 5 scores in the championship that count. So teams got their worst round.
Sorry to interrupt the... oh no, it's a different car. Apologies, I'm interrupting for no reason. Carry on.
I don't know what it's saying there. There's a penalty board out for somebody. That is for Simonson now, I think. So yeah, he's getting a penalty, and I think there might be another one coming.
The car second in Class B's in after the off for Tim Hartland and Stuart Mead. So there's another Class B car in dramas here. It's not the only car coming into the pit lane, because the 73 Audi is also coming in of Stephen Moore and Giles Hansen.
It's all happening. What I was saying is it's 5 rounds from 6 to count in the championship. Points scored within the individual classes. Confirmation of the Simpson track limit penalty. We saw him on the screen there. So yeah, it's looking good for Packer here, because he's looking fairly dominant in Class B this weekend. Class A and C both looking more competitive, dare I say, than Class B at this early stage of the season.
Yeah, some of that might be reliability-based cars that have dramas.
Watching Scott Parkin in the lead here. No sign of a loose bonnet. Maybe a little bit, just it goes over the curve. He sort of decides, but I think it's okay.
Of course, the other Class B car that had dramas was actually Liberty, so they're sort of the second and third fastest cars in the first stint. They're both cars that have had problems, so I think we'll be close about that. But it's been a very good weekend if Jonathan Pack continues on. So he won that road sports race yesterday, and look who are making the double. I don't think anyone else is going to achieve that, these are they?
Likely.
Tim Hartland was only 51 seconds ahead of the Ann Whitaker Mark Enoch car, I think. So the Cayman, number 297, might be up into second place. The Scirocco's back out there after a short stop, but it might well have switched the battle for second round. Oh, into the complex here. Ethan Simmons again is right on the tail of the Saviani and Hayes BMW up to the final corner. This has been going on for 20 minutes now.
Yeah, something like that. Drive-through penalty board. That is going to be for the number 1 car of Harrison Collins. That's another track limits infringement. So we've gone from 5 to 10 to drive-through penalty now for that car.
I don't think that's going to lose them a position, is it? They will probably involved in a possible podium battle. That's now going to not happen, but they are a long way ahead of the next car, so they shouldn't lose any positions.
And the pit window has closed now, notification of that, because we've had 2.25 hours of this race into the final 15-minute sprint to the checkered flag. Oh, and Parkin closing upon Simmons at a rate of knots there.
Ronnie, he's going up and down a bit more, isn't he?
Need to keep an eye on that. Confirmation of the driving penalty on screen now for the number 1 car. Yes, a bit of a vibration possibly causing some air to get underneath that. Let's hope that that's not going to be something that the scrutineers get too worried about and call that car back into the pits. The gap is still only about 55 seconds first to second. It's been about the same for quite a while, really, that gap.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to be quite quickly, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, perhaps Chris Byle in that middle section didn't quite have the pace of Simon Mason. These are two drivers on the pace of each other, though, isn't it? The Hayes and Saviani BMW and the Andrew Cooper and Nathan Simmons Honda that gets in the mirrors of the car ahead.
On 3 wheels around the hairpin goes Simmons. Who's to tail this battle for Class C?
Sorry, that B second place did change. Jan Whitaker's 12 seconds ahead of Tim Hartland. So we'll see if Hartland close back in. And Oliver Harris comes out in the middle of the Class C battle. Of course, this is the battle that he was involved in last year when he won the championship. But Ethan Simmons can't waste any time. He has to get down the inside of Holland Bend. I'm sure the M2 then will power back past down the straight.
Yeah, the fact that the Class E battle has been the best battle of the race is really testament to the fact that, yeah, this is proper endurance racing on a pretty competitive budget. Nice looking, nice well turned out cars, both of them, the BMW and the Honda Civic Type R. But probably being done at a much reduced budget compared to those cars in Class A. Just as much fun, certainly even more fun for us watching the race. 12.5 minutes left to go.
Sideways remark up there, wasn't he, like we saw in the Time R Trophy races earlier.
Pushing on because he wants to get back in touch with Saviani, doesn't he? To have another go and try and find a way through before the end of the race. It's the complex once again. The number 1 BMW has cleared both of them now. Turns out of the complex into hairpin onto the brakes, turns through the left-hander. Back onto the start and finish straight
I can
once more.
tell you about average lap times in this stint. You thought that Simon Mason was really leading the Scott parking. Parking in this stint is a 129.3 average.
Yeah.
Mason's done a 129.5 and Nyland's done a 129.4.
Okay, very similar, all three of them then. Not a lot to choose between any of them though, and if they'd been together on track that would have made for quite a good race, but they are separated by a fairly significant amount of Croft between them at the moment.
Chris Nyland's got the gap down to Simon Mason to 9 seconds, but as it's on average only catching a 10th per lap, that's a little bit too much, but it was 12-13 seconds, and it's just slowly eking towards the car ahead. Now what's happened to Ethan Simmons here?
Has dropped back a fair distance from Paul Sapioni, who's just in behind the Edmund Christie BMW, which is still going well, the orange one, just in front of Sapioni there. So I wonder if Simmons has run out of steam here. It's only 6 tenths behind at the start of the lap. It's perhaps about 3 seconds between them, something like that.
Battle for 6th is very shortly going to be on because Joe Williams is only 2 seconds ahead of Paul Simerson, who's catching a rate of a couple of seconds a lap. So Paul Simerson has had quite long pit stops in that Cayman, so whether that's a fatigue thing or whether they are struggling to get quick stops at the moment, that might be something to they'll be working on. But Paul Simerson should be able to get back into the top 6 very shortly. But has a penalty, doesn't he? So
he does.
Get past him all the way.
5 second penalty.
There he is.
Yeah, there he is. The 55 car. Class A with the stick on the back to indicate that, to help drivers know that they are coming up to pass.
Or the Class A car, maybe who you've just been passed by.
Yes.
There's Joe Williams just ahead. So these are 2 solo drivers, aren't they? Joe, the driver from Herefordshire. Yes, Autograss man in the Williams race team with Vanin Motorsport prepared Cupra, and then Simerson in Simon Green Motorsport prepared Porsche. They are not far behind Jonathan Packer, the Class B leader, to put a lap on the Volkswagen Golf. So again, he's about 2 seconds quicker on this lap. Simerson is not going to challenge at the hairpin. I think the Cupra makes such an FG40 look very small. And they both lap that car up across the line.
Yeah, so they are going on to another lap. The leader, Scott Parkin, is working lap 90. They are on lap 88, I think. So a couple of laps off the lead of the race. Packer just in front of both of those. He's in 9th position overall.
Battle of 5th in Class B. Edward Christie is 1700ths of a second ahead of Giles Hanson. And Hanson has been catching a real rate, so that should change as well.
I think it may already have changed, actually. Just having a look. Yes, it has. The Hanson car just coming past us now is ahead.
But more importantly, the Class C leader's changed all of a sudden. So Ethan Simmons has got himself ahead of the BMW up towards turn 1. The BMW's looking up the inside, the Hayes and Sabiani car. There they are on your screen now. Well caught by our camera crew here from Alpha Live. But slow lap presumably for the BMW.
For both of them actually, and I don't think they were lapped by anyone on that lap, so maybe they just managed to fall over one another somehow. But there was a bit of a gap going into the start of the lap. The race not over yet between them though, is it? Because although it's Simmons ahead, Sabiani is going to have a look at the inside into Town Corner with 8 minutes of the race left to go. Doesn't go through there. They probably are going to be lapped again before too much longer. They might actually be caught by the car that's sort of lapped behind them, which is the Hanson car that's going quite well now.
Daniel Douglas is in 3rd in Class C, just wondering what might happen at the front of this battle.
Bit of a wobble there, I thought, from Simmons there, but he's maintained the gap to Sabiani. That was through Barcroft.
Paul Simpson's got past Stu Williams, by the way, for 6th, as we expected. But yeah, all eyes, as they have been for a while, to this Class C battle, which turns its way into the complex. We've had this question mark over Scott Parkin's car, haven't we? He's getting slower and slower, maybe just because we're getting towards the end of the race, he doesn't need to go quickly. He's dropped to 1 minute 32 now, but he's got this big gap, so if all is okay, it doesn't matter. But is it all okay? Because that bonnet on the left-hand side is certainly raised, which is of concern, really, to not just the officials, but perhaps to Scott Parkin as well.
1.3 seconds between the Class C leaders now. There they go, through Hawthorne and onto the chicane. Ethan Simmons in number 41. Paul Sabiani in the number 66. BMW, the yellow car, makes its way out of the chicane onto the back straight towards Tower, and that gap actually is more than 1.3 seconds to look out of the commentary box window. You can see them on the screen as well. But that gap, I reckon, is a couple of seconds now, so I wonder if now Sabiani is just having 1 or 2 problems. He is going to be caught and passed by the number 73 car, which is the Stephen Moore and Giles Hanson Audi TT.
Scott Parkin's about to go across the line, so 4 further laps. You see the car on the screen now with that raised bonnet on the left-hand side of the car. It's only not fixed as it should be. And Scott Parkin's a bit quicker that lap, in the 1 minute 30 to lead down to 7 seconds. But just bringing it home, I think, is Scott Parkin at this stage with 4 laps of the race to go, we think.
Yeah, I'd say it's going to be 4, isn't it, now? Looking at the clock. I'm a bit worried about Paul Sabiani now, because the gap has really gone out a lot on this lap between those two. It was 1.3 seconds, and now it's not a matter of tenths that we're counting, it is seconds. It must be getting up towards 10 seconds, that gap. Yeah, that BMW has got a problem, hasn't it?
He is about 3 laps ahead, I think, of Daniel Douglas, so you just need to bring it home now.
Yeah, 7.3 seconds ahead, so yes, it is a question of getting to the checkered flag, really.
After he put his arm up to his team, so indicating there is that issue.
So that's a shame, because it means that we're going to be denied the battle all the way to the checkered flag for the Class C win. I think we are going to be denied that.
Again, we knew reliability would come into this, didn't we? In a longer race than usual.
Yes, absolutely right. And had it gone the 2 hours, there'd have been rigidity exactly what the gap between them was at 2 hours. It would have been not very much, I'm sure, at that point.
No, who knows who was leading at that point? But that is not how long the race is. So it doesn't really matter very much.
Want to peruse on TSL later, maybe. 4 minutes and 23 seconds to go. Scott Parkin crosses the line again. Another longer lap time of 1:31.5 for him as he laps the 14 Scirocco.
Almighty, there's no need to go any quicker than that at this stage.
No, I mean,
Whereas Simon Mason and Chris Nyland really are all in a battle. There's only 9 seconds between them, so they can't afford to go any slower.
yes, absolutely. So they're still pushing on. Lapping the 129s, 128s, those two. That's Semerson again on camera.
Tim Hartland's also nursing the Scirocco home in the 140s now, so he's not been able to come back. And Jan Whittaker, the second in Class B, podium still on the cards. Others are doing personal best. Joel Hampson's just done a 1:36.2. Jonathan Ellsworth, a few laps ago, did a 1:30.2. Jody House has continued to go quicker, 1:34.6. So while some cars are limping home, sort of the monster from a few decades ago, where you see some of the cars just wanting to bring it home, other cars out there are pushing on and going as fast as they have all race, partially because they're on low fuel tanks now.
Yeah, that's certainly going to help, isn't it, with some of the improvements in lap times. As the fuel load has reduced in the closing stages of the race into the last 3 laps as we now are.
Paul Simonsen's far enough ahead of Joe Williams now, but he will be classified 6th if it ends as it is.
Scott Parkin over the line again, another lap in the mid 1:31s. He started his penultimate lap of the race now. Probably suggest he's going to be quite pleased to get to the checker flag. It'll be a bit of a tiring 2.5 hour race for him going solo, but he's going to do so victoriously by the looks of him. Also time for Paul Simonsen, Joe Williams. They've also been solo drivers. It looks like they're going to finish in 6th and 7th.
Ethan Simmons now 19 seconds in the lead of Class C. So the results not going to quite reflect the battle that we've enjoyed. Scott Parkin, 1.5 laps to go in this Darkside car. Parkin's won quite a lot of these races now, hasn't he, in this Audi that the team have developed over the years. The 2017 model car that produces around 340 brake horsepower. The Volkswagen Racing Cup machine that was converted into this diesel racer by the experts in Yorkshire. Darkside developments based in Barnsley. Up towards the complex, he comes for the penultimate time.
I think the car had 3 wins last year, didn't it? In the championship. Turning his way through the complex with the low sun now behind our commentary position, which is just to the left of where Scott Parkin is now.
On the previous lap, Chris Nyland caught Simon Mason by 3 seconds.
Okay.
And there's only 6 seconds between them now.
Right to that last lap then. The board has gone out to Scott Parkin. So he knows now it is going to be the final lap of the race. He can hopefully enjoy this. Try and keep an eye on what's going on with those cars further behind. 6 seconds between Mason and Nyland. But it's Scott Parkin turning his way out of the chicane down to the back straight and into the Tower Bend. Meanwhile, what of that battle for second, Josh?
This looks like a better lap for Simon Mason. It looked around 6 seconds still over Chris Nyland. But that's a gap that hadn't come down very quickly at all, and then all of a sudden one lap, a big chunk. So that would have been a concern for the team, for the car ahead. But good lap from Simon Mason there. Still not quite as quick as Chris Nyland, but the gap still remains around 6 seconds.
We just saw Scott Parkin going past the Paul Subiani car, which is at half rack power at the moment, with its late dramas in the battle for the Class C lead, which seems to have handed that to Ethan Simmons and Andrew Cooper.
Andrew Cooper can, by the looks of things, add his name to new winners this weekend.
Meanwhile, Scott Parkin is heading into the complex for the final time of this race. The clock has counted down to 0 after 2.5 hours of racing in this opening event of the Tekiwa Club Enduro Championship season. But it's been, as it turned out, a comfortable win, dominant performance by Scott Parkin in the opening Tekiwa Club Enduro round of 2026. He wins overall, he wins in Class A. Congratulations to him. We'll keep an eye on whether there is any of the battle for second place has got any closer as well. Josh is looking out of the commentary box window, trying to see what's going on through the sunshine.
Simon Mason here now, we can see on the screen Chris Nyland in third, so that's remained as it was.
Yeah, so it looks like they're going to be second and third already through. The Harrison Collins car in fourth position. Over the line, going to take second place then goes Simon Mason, Joe Nicole, Chris Byallen, Chris Nyland and Will Putskill. They are across the line as well to take third position. And here's our Class C with a bit slower to the line, but Ethan Simmons and Andrew Cooper take the Class C victory as well, which means we're just waiting for, as far as Class Winners are concerned, for Jonathan Packer to come through in the Class B Volkswagen Golf. He's just into the complex now, I can see. And he has had the, I think, biggest winning margin of all of our class winners. He's through the complex into the hairpin for the final time. He did give us a bit of a scare, and perhaps his team as well, when he crawled into the pits for his first mandatory stop, but he goes across the line to win in Class B. So Scott Parkin, Jonathan Packer and Simmons and Cooper are our three class winners in today's Club Enduro race, Josh.
And a race that did not feature a safety car, so well done to everybody that made that possible. 2.5 hours of racing right the way through. That doesn't happen very often, does it? 96 laps of the Croft circuit, and two of the three classes on the same lap. 3 leaders in overall on the lead lap. Great stuff. Highly entertaining. It's great battles amongst the race as well, and a really enjoyable start to the 2026 season.
Yeah, let's have a look at the result then at the